Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Day 2 of the Thoroughbred Owner Conference. And now, please give a warm welcome back to our Master of Ceremonies, Tom Durkin.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. You guys are looking particularly fresh given last night's festivities. And yesterday was terrific. What a trifecta of speakers. Yesterday, a governor of Kentucky, the first lady of horse racing, and the greatest player of all time. It's going to be hard to outdo that, but we'll try our very best today. It was a very fun, informational day yesterday, and we hope we can do so today before we make our way to the races over at Keeneland across the street. One thing you can measure the success of your own particular day, I think that measure is in how many questions that you ask. This is the one great thing about this bringing together of people, is that networking. A lot of networking going on last night. So if you're particularly a new owner, just keep on asking those questions. That's why we're here. It's the big reason. We're going to start off today. I met our first speaker, Pete Wilmot, in the back, and there's a pretty well-known breeder up in Saratoga, Bill Wilmot. And I asked him, I said, "Are you related to Bill Wilmot?" And he said, "I'm not related to anybody." Do you know how hard that is, not to be related to anybody? I think it's biologically impossible, but he's not related to anybody. But for a guy that has absolutely no DNA whatsoever, he did pretty good. He was the president of Carson Perry Scott. If you're a Chicagoan, you know that famous store. And if you're anybody in the world, you know that FedEx, a company that he was president of, and quite successfully so. And as well as a success in thoroughbred breeding and ownership. And this is just my announcer's way of thinking. I hear the name Pete Wilmot, and all I can think of is golden purple diamonds. Golden purple hat, golden purple sleeves. But here is the man with no DNA, ladies and gentlemen, Pete Wilmot.
I don't know what to say about what Tom said. So I won't say anything. I just wanted to make a few comments before you start the formal part of your agenda today. And I think the first thing I want to say is thank you very much for attending this first ever ownership conference. This conference serves a very, very important purpose in terms of educating you about the ownership and breeding industries. And these industries are exciting, and I must tell you, they're mentally very challenging, and they're a lot of fun. For you who are veterans of this industry, thanks for getting basically refreshed by attending these sessions. I think refreshing yourself about where your stable and breeding operations are going and what strategies you should have is very, very important. And I admire you for spending the time attending this conference. The Thoroughbred Owners and Breeders Association, which is led by Dan Metzger, he's our leader, and the Jockey Club, led by Jim Gagliano, I think have done a great job of putting this conference together. And there is certainly plenty of quality on this program. You start with Tom, who's a wonderful, wonderful spokesman for our industry. And Gary Player, who I must say is as balanced and disciplined an individual that you would ever want to meet. And then you put on top of that these very quality panels that you've been exposed to yesterday and that will be participating, people will be participating again today. I mean, you've got yourself a very good education from really knowledgeable experts in our industry. So this is going to give all of you newcomers especially a great perspective on this industry. Now, just for a moment, and I don't like to normally do this, but I want to talk quite personally to you about my experience in the industry and how I got involved and where it led to. Actually, my entry into the industry started at birth because I was born 18 miles north of the Saratoga Racecourse. And as a result, my parents and grandparents nurtured my interest in horse racing. They would take me to the track. My grandfather had a women's glove factory. Women don't wear gloves anymore, unfortunately, so my grandfather was smart enough to sell the business, but he closed down his Saratoga Springs factory every August. Now, he said it was so the employees could go to the track. Actually, it was so he could go to the track, and he did quite regularly. So Tom says I have no DNA, but basically my DNA was involved with Saratoga racing. And I went to the track. I went to college not far from Saratoga in Williamstown, Massachusetts. And so when I was in college in August, I would go over to the track, and I remember sitting at the top of the stretch. There used to be a separate grandstand there, and I can't remember what the name of it was. But it was a great place with all kinds of different people sitting there betting on horses. That was fabulous. And at that time, you could go out into the infield and actually go near the starting gate and watch them load the horses and then run. So I was getting, when I was in college, I was getting quite an education on this sport. I bought my first horse when one of my daughters was in college, actually here in Kentucky at the, she went to Center College in Danville, and one of her schoolmates, a chap by the name of Kevin Lavin, came up to Chicago one summer where I lived, and I said to Kevin, he went to one of these, what do you call them, markets, I don't know which one, the Merchants Exchange, I can't remember which one, but basically I gave Kevin $1,000. I said, Kevin, if you make some money off this $1,000, you and I are going to buy a racehorse. And he made some money, and we bought what turned out to be our first of many horses that we've owned over the years. Kevin is the son of Betsy and Gary Lavin, and I mention them because they are two very well-known people in this industry. They've given a lot to the industry, and they're just wonderful people. And Kevin and Alan Lavin, their two sons, and Betsy and Gary have been very, very helpful to me. And for you new owners, I think that's important to meet people in the industry, and there are plenty of great people in the industry. Meet and learn from them, learn from their many years of experience. I certainly benefited from that. Now, we've had some great thrills as a family in this industry, and I'll mention a few. We had a horse by the name of Ide. Ide won as a 2- and 3-year-old 7 straight races leading up to the Kentucky Derby. And on April 1st, April Fool's Day, I got a call from the trainer, Pete Vestal, who said Ide has been injured and won't be able to run in the Derby, or in fact won't be able to run at all. That, of course, was a very depressing event. But leading up to the Derby and winning those 7 straight races was certainly quite a thrill. Our horse Eddington won our one and only Grade 1 race, the Pimlico Special, and he was a very exciting horses as well. And then one of his offspring, Secret Circle, has won 2 Breeders' Cup sprint races. And Secret Circle, I hope, will be running for his 3rd sprint championship in less than 2 weeks out at Santa Anita, and I certainly plan to be out there to watch that event. So those 3 horses, 3 of many that we've owned, plus the fact that we've won 2 graded stakes races at Saratoga, my home track. We've won the Hall of Fame Stakes and the Lake Placid Stakes, both graded stakes. They've given us great thrills. Not that everything has been fabulous, because you do have to be prepared for setbacks like we suffered when I got hurt. But I must say, when you balance everything out, it's been, for our family anyway, a tremendous experience. And I recommend it highly. And in balance, it's a great adventure. There's great people in this industry, and of course the athletes are fabulous. Just one final word about the Thoroughbred Owners and Breeders Association, TOBA. TOBA has a mission to enhance the economics and the integrity of our great sport. And there's plenty to do in both these areas. And with our 2,000 members, we're working to do just that. And we welcome, especially you newcomers, when you do join our industry, we welcome you into membership, and we welcome your assistance in enhancing both the integrity and the economics of our sport. Now today you have another great program. The next panel will be talking about the thoroughbred and foundations, and the care for thoroughbreds and support of foundations involved in our industry. And our industry has made great strides over the past several years in assisting our retired thoroughbreds and in supporting the men and women who need help in our industry and funding equine research. These are all very important activities, and this panel you'll find, as you found in yesterday's panel, a group of people who are very much involved in doing great work. So I know this panel and the ones to follow will be wonderful, will provide wonderful information for all of you. So I think the last area I want to talk about just briefly is we at TOBA have our own charity, the Thoroughbred Charities of America. It has 25 years of service to our equine athletes and to the people in the industry. So I'm very proud of the work that they have done over many, many years. So let's get going with the program. I think you'll find it to be fascinating, and good luck to every one of you. Thank you very, very much.
All right, Pete, very good, well done. Our next segment is a very important one. It's going to deal with thoroughbred aftercare. Old racehorses just don't fade away. They will have plenty of life after their racing careers have ended. So that's one of the topics that our panel is going to take care of next. Also, the health care of the thoroughbred, and very importantly, the nutrition of the thoroughbred racehorse. How key? Well, they say, you are what you eat. If that's the case, I'm a walking bowl of tagliatelle bolognese. But what a way to go. And our moderator Always had a long career in racing. He worked for the Jockey Club. He worked right across the street in the racing office here at Keeneland. He's had a number of positions before he marched out on his own entrepreneurial road. He started what is known as HRRN, the Horse Racing Radio Network. And they they radiocast all of racing's big events, Breeders' Cup, Triple Crown, and what have you. He started out with just 6 little stations here in Kentucky, just 6 little stations spread across the state to broadcast some of these races. Through his efforts, HRRN now has 100 affiliated stations. He is an equine entrepreneur, Mike Penna.
Wow, Tom Durkin, thanks so much. That was really cool. That was really cool, and I'll tell you why. Tom knows this. He's probably the only person right now that knows this, except for my close friends. But I grew up in Western Massachusetts. I was about an hour from Saratoga. And because of that, we would get the replay show of the New York races every single night into our house. And, of course, Tom Durkin was the man calling those races. That's what I grew up with. So I grew up wanting to be a race caller. And I had 2 idols as a kid. I had Greg Nettles of the New York Yankees, and I had Tom Durkin. And I can remember the first time I had the chance to meet Tom in 2007 at Belmont Park. It was the first time I met him in his announcer's booth. We had just gotten the rights to broadcast the Belmont Stakes. It was our first ever national broadcast. And if you've ever been to Belmont and been to the announcer's booth, you go up an elevator, down a long hallway, and eventually you get to the announcer's booth. It was probably one of the longest walks of my entire life because I'm thinking, I'm going to meet my idol. And I'm trying to think, what am I going to say to Tom Durkin that's not going to make me sound stupid? And I'm thinking about that the whole way up there, and I said, I'm just going to be honest with Tom. So we made a little small talk, and then I finally came out with it, and I said, Tom, I have to tell you. He doesn't know this, but I said, Tom, you're my idol. And Tom looked at me without missing a beat, and Tom said, well, Michael, you may want to set your bar a bit higher. And I've never forgotten that. It was typical Tom Durkin. I didn't tell him I used to jog to his race calls in my headset and all that, but yeah, that wasn't very good either. Pretty cool stuff, though. You think back on what Tom just mentioned and what this panel is all about, and I became hooked on the sport in 1989. When I went to Saratoga, it was the Travers Stakes. Easy Goer won the Travers that year. And I stood by the rail. I think I had $2 across the board. He paid like $2.10 to win. I made like 50 cents, and I was hooked on the sport for life. And that's all it took from me. And there was a gentleman in New York years ago by the name of Harvey Pack who used to host the replay show. And he would always say, once you cash your first $2 winner, we've got you for life. And he's absolutely right, because they had me for life. And I was absolutely hooked. And I'm sure each of you have your own story as to why you want to be involved in this sport, why you want to own racehorses. And there's so many things to consider. You heard several panels yesterday. Today we're going to talk about care and aftercare of the horse, and we're going to hear from those who are involved with equine research and the people and the organizations that take care of not only the equine athletes, but some of the human athletes or human individuals that are involved with working with those athletes in our sport. And hopefully, after you get a chance to hear the comments from our panel of experts here today, you'll have a better understanding of this aspect of the sport. So to walk us through these many considerations, let's bring up our panel of experts, and we'll begin with the current president of the American Association of Equine Practitioners. He is a member of numerous committees for the AAEP. In addition, he has served on the Grayson Jockey Club Research Committee and currently serves on the University of California Davis Intramural Grant Research Committee and on the boards of the Southern California Equine Foundation, RMTC, and Equine Health and Safety Advisory Board. He is a racetrack practitioner and a partner in Von Blücher, Blea, Hunkin, Inc., a veterinarian thoroughbred practice in Southern California. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Jeff Blea.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning.
Doc. Thank you. Next, we welcome an individual who is an internationally recognized equine orthopedic surgeon and is a partner at Rood and Riddle Equine Hospital here in Lexington. He is a past president of the AAEP and can often be seen providing veterinary expertise during media coverage of major horse racing events. In recognition of his dedication and contribution to thoroughbred racing, he has been awarded the Jockey Club Gold Medal for contributions to thoroughbred racing in the United States. He is also a past chairman of the Research Advisory Committee of the Grayson Jockey Club Research Foundation and serves on its board of directors. He has received numerous honors for his work regarding the internal fixation of fractures in the development of the fetlock arthrodesis procedure for horses. Let's welcome Dr. Larry Bramlage.
Thanks, Mike.
Hey, Doc. Up next, she is the executive director of the Thoroughbred Charities of America, a nonprofit organization that provides grants to charities that work to provide a better life for thoroughbred athletes and the people who work with them. Since 1990, TCA has distributed over $20 million in grants to more than 200 charities in the areas of thoroughbred rescue, retirement, retraining, and adoption, backstretch and farm worker employee programs, equine research, and therapeutic riding. A graduate of St. Lawrence University with a Master's of Arts in Media Communications, she entered the thoroughbred industry as a director of marketing and communications for the Thoroughbred Owners and Breeders Association. And as the TCA became the charitable arm of TOBA, she eventually took the reins of this invaluable organization and never looked back. She also serves on the board of directors of the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance. Please help me in welcoming Erin Crady.
Mike.
Let's go.
Thanks.
Raised in Ontario, Canada, our next panelist is the daughter of thoroughbred trainer Joan Clark and owner Peter Clark. Growing up around thoroughbred racing, her parents' passion for the industry soon became her own. She started working at the racetrack over the summers while attending university. After graduating with combined honors in media communications, she went on to work with the Toronto, Ontario film and television industry before pursuing a career as a jockey. From 1993 through 1996, she rode as a jockey in Ontario and was nominated for the 1994 Sovereign Award as Outstanding Apprentice in Canada. Following her career in the saddle, she joined Woodbine Racetrack's television department as associate producer and racing television commentator. In most recent years, her focus has turned to the development of thoroughbred retirement initiatives and implementation of equine aftercare programs. In 2004, as Thoroughbred Retirement Program Manager at Adena Springs, the first ever in-house retirement program was created. She was directly involved in the implementation and management of the aftercare programs at Gulfstream Park and Santa Anita, and she currently serves on the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance, and in 2013 produced HRTV's Eclipse Award-winning Emmy-nominated documentary, Saratoga Warhorse. Please welcome Stacy Clark. Thanks, Stacy. Our next panelist is the executive director of the Jockey Club Safety Net Foundation, a charitable trust that provides financial assistance to those in need in the thoroughbred industry. Since 1985, the foundation has given over $14 million in support to backstretch workers and their families, farm workers, jockeys, office personnel, and various racetrack chaplains. She also serves as Vice President of Development for Grayson Jockey Club Research Foundation, a leading private source of equine medical research funding in the nation. Before joining the Jockey Club, she spent 8 years at the New York Racing Association. She is the recipient of the Red Smith Good Guy Award from the New York Turf Riders Association for her humanitarian efforts with the thoroughbred industry, and the Award of Excellence from the Racetrack Chaplaincy of America for faithfully supporting the mission of RTCA to provide with excellence for the spiritual, emotional, physical, and social and educational needs of horse racing's workforce. Give a warm welcome to Miss Nancy Kelly. And finally, for the past 20 years, this gentleman has served as the president of the Grayson Jockey Club Research Foundation, traditionally the leading source of private funding for veterinary research, specifically to benefit all horses. The foundation typically funds 15 to 18 projects at various universities, providing $1 million in support annually. Prior to joining the foundation, he was a journalist covering racing for more than 30 years, primarily with the Blood Horse, where he served as managing editor and then editor-in-chief. He is the author of 19 books on thoroughbred racing. A native of Welsh, West Virginia, he attended the University of Florida and University of Kentucky before serving as a second lieutenant in the U.S. Army Reserve. He's a past president of the Thoroughbred Club of America and is currently a vice president of the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame, as well as president of the American Academy of Equine Art. Join me in welcoming Mr. Ed Bowen. Thanks, Ed. Thank you. Well, thank you all for being here today. And, there's no question that when we think about the needs of our equine athletes, we think about the physical nature of it, we think about it nutritionally, and we even think about it mentally. It's kind of a long-term proposition. And these horses, they need special care. They're not house pets. They're a little bit of a different type of a scenario. And it's imperative that when we think about the racehorse, we think about the nutritional needs and the physical health, which is, it has to be monitored on a regular basis, and that's what these experts do each and every day of their lives. And Dr. Blair, we're going to go ahead and start with you. Talk about the physical side of the equation, and if you could explain to the attendees here today the common veterinary practices that are required to maintain a healthy racehorse.
Thanks, Mike. On a day-to-day basis, we're dealing with athletes. And as you said, in our profession, in our world, these aren't your run-of-the-mill, day-to-day horses. They're athletes on the racetrack. As such, our program is set up to address the needs of those athletes. So, for example, probably the most common everyday veterinary practice on the racetrack are physical exams. Whether it's a request by the trainer or it's a horse the veterinarian is continuing to monitor or a request from an owner to have a look at a horse. The most common procedure we do on the racetrack is a physical exam. And they're not a long drawn-out physical exam, it's more of a cursory exam. Watch the horse walk, palpate the limbs, flex the limbs, watch the horse jog. And it's a continuum of that physical exam on a day-to-day basis that carries throughout that entire season or year, or years for that horse or that trainer. Some other common veterinary procedures that occur at the racetrack, which are seen on the bills, are, for example, endoscopy exams. A lot of horses are scoped for one of two reasons, either post-work, post-race, to evaluate function, presence of blood or mucus. Other times, horses will be scoped to evaluate a horse that is coughing or not performing well, or, for example, poor performance related to a respiratory problem. Some other common veterinary procedures that are often done on a day-to-day basis include laboratory work. We do a lot of CBC chemistry analysis. We'll look at muscle enzymes. We'll look at liver and kidney function, and basically the overall general health picture of that horse from a blood tube. We can get quite a bit of information about that horse's health on a day-to-day basis with some laboratory diagnostics. Other common procedures we do, and they're in conjunction with that physical exam or that cursory exam, include diagnostic anesthesia to identify lamenesses or problems. Say a horse is slightly off on the right front. That procedure will take place after the exam. Will include diagnostic anesthesia, possibly followed up with radiographs or ultrasounds. We can go as far as nuclear scintigraphy and even to MRIs in the standing horse at the racetrack. So if you think of it in two manners, what we do as far as common procedures on the racetrack from a veterinary perspective, one, we're addressing an athlete. Two, we're doing the same thing that your doctor would do if you are an athletic individual.
There's an awful lot to it.
It seems like there is, but you know, it runs very smoothly. We look at these horses on a day-to-day basis. The trainers are intimately aware of any sort of subtleties or changes, whether it's filling in an ankle, filling in a tendon, horse isn't training right, didn't work well, didn't finish well, off his feed, things like that. So it's a team approach, and that's part of what we provide to that team.
How about the nutritional aspect of it? What role does nutrition play in the life of an equine athlete, and what role does the veterinarian play in the nutrition of those horses?
Nutrition is a key component to the racehorse. You know, if you go to the gym, go to 24-hour fitness, you see all those products on the side, muscle milk and protein builder, what have you. Those are all great, but if you boil it down to basics, and one, you're feeding a horse. Two, you're feeding an athlete. So both of those subsets have specific requirements. As an athlete, you're going to have an increased requirement for carbohydrates, protein, minerals, things like that. So you have to address those needs, not only that individual as a horse, but that individual as an athlete. What their age is, what level of training they're in, how much exercise they're doing. You feed a horse differently coming off the farm into training versus one that's getting close to running. As far as our role in nutrition, I would say it's minimal for two reasons. One, I think a lot of the nutritional products out there, specifically grains, are pretty well-made, comprehensive products. And it's not one size fits all. The second important part to that is the trainer. Trainers are good horsemen. They know how to feed a horse. And they'll look at that horse and say, she's getting a little bit light, Doc, what do you think? No, he's getting a little bit heavy. We need to cut him back a little bit. We need to take him off alfalfa, you know, things like that. Good hays, good timothy, good alfalfa, good grass hay is critical. Horses are grazers. They could eat at all times. The only other role that we play, I think, in nutrition is when we start seeing a problem with an increased number of colics in a barn. We'll look at that from a nutritional standpoint. How often are you feeding him? What are you feeding him? What's changed? And we'll get involved with that to try to solve the problem, you know. And back to our day-to-day exams to nutrition, our role is to solve problems for the trainer and for the owner.
How about the trainers? Do you find that most trainers will follow the same nutrition practices with their horses in training, or are there some differences there?
There's differences. By and large, the majority of them are the same. In my area, Southern California, the majority of them are the same. The exception being, you'll see some trainers who will go the route of excessive supplements. And I call it excessive because I don't think they're always necessary. And when you start adding a lot of those supplements, you start seeing some problems on occasion. Not everything is bad for the horse, but not everything is good for the horse. And it's similar to you or I. If you're taking a vitamin D supplement and you're taking 1,000 units per day, you start taking 10,000 units per day, there's going to be some ramifications. So by and large, trainers know how to feed a horse on the racetrack.
Before we move off this topic, what are some of the most common things that owners and trainers typically miss when they're talking about the health of their equine athlete?
I don't think they miss much. I think what they're remiss in is communication. And I say that because, and again, not one size fits all. Every trainer, every owner relationship is different. But if you don't have that communication between vet and trainer, between owner-trainer, and between vet and owner, if you don't have that triad, you're going to miss things. And it's critically important, not only for the health of the horse, but for the success of that owner's program, whether it's breeding, racing, what have you. If everyone's on the same page, everybody's a winner, especially the horse. What they're remiss in is if a trainer sees a problem in a horse and is reluctant to, one, either have the vet look at it, or two, have the vet do any diagnostics because the owner may not want to spend the money, the owner's vet bills are too high, something like that. By the same token, if the owner doesn't relay to his trainer his risk tolerance, that trainer doesn't have the ability to do their job. What's lost in all that is the veterinarian is not sure what their position is in some instances and the horse suffers the consequences. So they don't miss much, but they're remiss in their communication at times. If everybody's communicating, everybody wins.
Let's turn our attention to talking about some of the injuries and some of the conditions that can occur in horses. And Dr. Bramlage, will turn to you here for this one. You've seen so many injuries over the years and treated so many horses with different ailments. What are some of the more common injuries that occur in racehorses?
Well, I'm going to go show some slides because it's a lot easier to just sort of point it out. At the risk of trying to make you equine surgeons, I'm just going to ranch through a few things. This shows procedures that Jeff referred to going on at our hospital. Top left, that's a horse getting an MRI. In the middle on top is a horse, a foal on total parenteral nutrition. He was a dummy foal. He didn't know how to nurse when he was born because of a difficult birth. Top right is a bone scan. The horses are injected with a nuclear isotope, and then that big camera reads them. On the lower left is an ultrasound. And on the lower right is an arthroscopic surgery undergoing. We don't do surgery in the straw, like some people think. It's basically an adaptation of virtually all the equipment that they can use in people. But there is a big difference in that you can't put horses in bed. So a lot of the stuff that we have to do is predicated by trying to get into the problem early and stopping it before it goes forward. Most of the joints we do on horses are so much better than what our orthopedic surgeons do on us. You know, if you looked at my knees and that was a horse, we'd just euthanize me right off the bat. Horses are built like a suspension bridge. They are so economical in the skeleton, which we'll talk about in the next segment. The bones can't possibly carry the load. So just like that bridge on the top edge of the slide there, that steel can't carry the load unless you support it with those cables. And a horse is made exactly the same way. Now, we got a problem with the slide showing up, but take a look at the little box in the middle on the bottom where that horse's ankle is in full weight-bearing position. The most common injuries in horses are marginal fractures of the edges of the bones in the joints. And that's important. The most common injury in people are meniscal tears in our knees. And there's a lot of corollaries to that. You want to intervene in those before they cause permanent damage. This is a picture of a horse with a chip fracture in the ankle. Just concentrate on the right-hand picture. And see that kind of flap that's sticking up there. That's a chip fracture in the ankle, right where that horse's ankle was totally collapsed in the weight-bearing position. They have a tendency to hit there in high-speed exercise, and if they do, it makes a little fragment of bone. Now, the parent bone responds, trying to heal it, and if you look under it, it looks like sugar in a bowl on a humid day, those little pieces of granular bone. Our job is to keep those little pieces of bone from doing permanent damage to the interior of the joint. That arrow points to a score line where one of those little pieces of bone got between the two cartilage layers. The white is cartilage there. And it's like throwing a little bit of sand in your car's engine periodically. It wears out the gears. So you want to get in there and take out the cause before it does permanent damage. That's mostly what we do in arthroscopy. Here's a 2-year-old filly that I'm going to refer to a little bit in a minute, and I can't. On the left hand side, in the front of the joint, you'll see a thing that looks like kind of a V on the front of her joint. That's the same thing you're seeing on the right-hand side there with the instrument getting ready to take it out. I'll come back to this filly in a minute. Here's a knee chip where you can see in the circle where those margins happen to get impacted or the damage accumulates faster than the horse is repairing it. We'll talk more about that in the next segment. That's a knee chip. Here's a hock OCD. Here's a stifle OCD. Look at the lower left-hand picture. What you need to see is those little fragments of bone. I've just taken that probe and pushed on that OCD. OCDs are a common problem in young horses. They grow 50 times faster than us. They mature in 2 years. We mature in 20. They're 10 times Jeff's size, maybe 5 times mine. So if you multiply that out, they have to get there a lot faster than we do. And they have developmental problems, and it's that debris that's the problem, because you leave that debris in there, that's what it does to a joint. That rough area, that should also be like a slick countertop. lubricate. It's like the horse is trying to lubricate a shag rug whenever that debris does that to the joint. Now we're talking about some fracture injuries, which I'll speak of in a minute. Here's a horse with multiple fractures. It ends up by his 4th year, he finally got really good, and he's now a stallion. But to give you some additional pictures, here's maybe my favorite horse of my entire career. We'll see her again a little bit later. It's Personal Ensign, and that's the fracture she had. Sometimes we have to go all the way to putting plates in to stabilize fractures. In this instance, this is a horse, Mike referred to the fetlock arthrodesis. That suspension bridge will sometimes break down. If you look at the middle picture, you'll see those bones are split in half. That disables the suspension bridge. And so sometimes we have to do a surgery that actually eliminates the need for a joint. So we can do lots of things in horses, but we can't put them in bed. And our whole goal is Jeff looks at the horses every day to see what's starting to go wrong. Once they establish that a joint is starting to get in trouble, he sends them to us, and our job is to stop that process before the joint wears out. So that's the whole crux of treating racehorses, is we take care of their skeleton. Their skeletons, that's what I do as an orthopedic surgeon. Their skeletons are most vulnerable organ system. And we'll come back to that in a little bit.
That was really informative. And you know, one other topic that tends to come up when we talk about injuries and we talk about preventing injuries in the sport is the amount of time that a racehorse should have in between his races. From what you've seen, is there an optimal time frame, be it 4, 5, 6 weeks, that a horse should get in between races? And I'll ask a part 2 to this question. Is there a guideline that new owners can follow that would help them determine that?
We need to change our level of thinking here a little bit in order to answer this question, in that we're not talking so much about distance between 2 races. What we're worried about is accumulated wear and tear over a period of time. And this graph on the lower, on this slide, it kind of breaks down the horse into several parts, but roughly they have 275 pounds worth of skeleton that has to carry them around the racetrack. The reason they're so good is that skeleton is no bigger than it has to be. And how they get to that is just an amazing thing. It keeps me interested every day in my job now, even after 39 years. They actually manufacture that skeleton while they're training. Why does the skeleton require so much training? Well, partly the heart and lungs are so good, they respond so fast to training that we can't overload them. They're so much better than ours. For us to train, it's heart and lungs. But in a horse, they have to take their bones, and the red line shows where that horse started as a yearling, and that's how much thicker the cannon bone on the left and the tibia on the right have to get in order to make a racehorse. And how does that happen? Well, it's basically like all training. All training in all systems is overload, over repair, overload, over repair. You do a little more than you're ready to do, and the body gets a signal that I got to get stronger. And so it gets stronger, and so the next thing you do is overload again, and eventually you get a racehorse out of the scenario that the horse is actually manufactured. Oh, and I'm sorry for the slide. The key thing here, this is a conversion into the projection system, and I don't know if you can see it, but the distance, the double-headed arrow is how much bone that horse has added from the time he started training. The circle shows where that cannon bone is as a yearling. It's a perfectly round circle. This is a right hind cannon bone. He takes that bone and shapes it to the shape that it has to be, and adds bone to the size that it needs to be. Injuries occur whenever this process of shaping the bone get out of whack. And the difficult thing is not all parts of the skeleton train the same. That's why conformation is important, because conformation increases the load in some parts of the skeleton. And if the overload starts to accumulate faster than the over repair, then you start to get cracks in the bone. Horses' bones are so hard you cannot break them with a single load for the most part. Foals get fractures, but fractures in adults are rare because they have a very hard time breaking that strong a bone. But if you can If you have multiple small loads and the bone gets behind in adaptation, that's where you get that kind of the problem. So now here's your question. This is research done by Leah Esberg from the California post-mortem examinations, and that horses of 35 that have gone a total of 35 furlongs of raced and time work speed, that means timed workouts or race furlongs, furlongs an eighth of a mile, compared to horses with 25 furlongs, have a 4 times increase in the probability of a serious injury. So there's nothing wrong. I personally have nothing wrong with some trainers who very effectively will race a horse on Saturday. He raced so good, they put him in for the next Saturday. They can do that, but they can't do that over and over and over. Exercise creates a debt, that overload debt, and you have to have enough repair time in order to fix that. You can do that by giving the horse some time off. You can spread these races. The higher level of race that you're racing, the harder it's going to be on the horse's skeleton. And so that's why a lot of claimers, they race every 2 weeks over and over and over. But stakes horses, they often have to have a longer break because they're harder on their skeleton than the horse that's just galloping in the field.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, you've used your knowledge, your expertise over the years to help a lot of horses come back to the racetrack, have a successful racing career after an injury, and even go on to a great post-race career. Tell me about one or two of those horses that you've helped kind of get back up to speed, so to speak.
Well, GD has a couple of films back there. First, I'm going to talk about Personal Ensign. She's the horse I showed with the 5 screws in her hind pastern. Everybody should be so lucky as me in order to be able to work on a horse like this. She won her first 2 races, and then she got injured. And we were just trying to save her as a broodmare. This is her Breeders' Cup in 1988, where she's undefeated. She came back off of those 2 losses, or 2 wins, and had the injury, and came back and won an additional 12 or 10 races in a row, so she was 12-0. That's winning colors in the front. She won the Derby just like that. She ran off so far that 49er couldn't catch her. And so she's trying to do that same thing to Personal Ensign here in the 1988 Breeders' Cup Distaff. Personal Ensign, this is her last race, and there's all kinds of drama because she's way back there. She's in 6th or 7th, coming at the top of the stretch, but she has so much heart. The reason this fracture was good to me, and I think good to a lot of veterinary medicine, is it showed the coming of age of repair to where we not only could just save the horse's life, but we were able to start getting them back into training. A condylar fracture that we put screws in, that's not even a story anymore. It doesn't even hardly make the paper. So here comes Personal Ensign. She's on the rail. She has to go to the outside as she's moving forward. I'm sitting in the stands, and I'm yelling my head off because Winning Colors is just starting to lag a little bit, and here she comes on the outside. That's Tom Durkin with the call right there.
A furious one on the outside, but it is still Winning Colors. Goodbye, Halo. Personal Ensign, a 16th of a mile from the wire. Winning Colors is there. Personal Ensign, a dramatic finish, and here is the wire, and it is Personal Ensign there with Winning Colors in a photo.
I see that race 100 times, and thrill still goes down my spine at how she caught that horse. She just refused to lose. And then one more that we're going to show, I think this is special for another reason, and that is, this is a filly that I showed you the x-rays of her ankle. This is Rachel Alexandra. The question here is, this trainer had never had a grade 1 winner. And here he's got this filly. He thinks he's got all kinds of ability, but she's got this chunk in the front of her ankle. And this is the end of the year in her 2-year-old year by the time we look at her. Can we get her back to where she can race in the Oaks without having something reduce her performance? That's the whole key. 1 second is 5 lengths in a race. So if you reduce the horse's performance 1 second, you go from stakes horse to Wednesday afternoon funeral purse claimer. You know, it's a really kind of balanced game to keep that horse at high level performance, and that's Jeff's job every day. Well, we thought we could get her back, and we took the chip fracture out and cleaned up her joint, tried to prevent that debris from being shed in to affect her performance. She came back, she had one win, and she was just coming of age in this race. Now, you all have seen Secretariat's 31 length win in the Belmont Stakes. Watch this filly run off in the stretch. I mean, this is as close to that kind of victory as I've ever seen. And the reason it was special is there's a trainer who's in his 60s. He's never had a Grade 1 winner. He finally gets this filly, and can she do it in the race? Well, the jockey's gonna shift gears here in a minute.
A tremendous run for the back of the pack. Rachel Alexandra.
Oh, this is in the Woodward. Yeah, this is the Woodward. She's now racing against 3-year-old and older colts.
She is indeed.
That's the only time it's ever been done. Is a 3-year-old filly racing up a level and against the colts, and she beat them there too. She's a special filly. And there's some connections in the audience here. She's special to a lot of people. She's just class all the way around.
Well, I can remember, that brings back some great memories. I remember that. We broadcast that race on radio, and we sat, at that time, we were positioned out back in the paddock area, the saddling area, and I can still hear the roar from the crowd. It was electric, and it sent chills down my spine, and to watch it again, I just got those same chills.
I mean, she put away the early contenders, and then she had to deal with the
Yeah.
late closer, and she got them all.
That was amazing. We could spend all day talking about the physical well-being of the horse and things you can do to help your horse physically, but we're going to turn our attention now to talking about aftercare. And aftercare has been in the news a lot lately, rightfully so. It helps owners make those decisions for how you can do the best thing for your equine athlete after their racing careers are concluded. And I'm going to ask Aaron and Stacy to touch on aftercare. And Aaron, we'll go ahead and start with you. Why is aftercare so important?
Sure, that's a great question. And on the screen here, I've displayed some information about Thoroughbred Charities of America, including our mission, a little bit about what it is we do. But essentially, nearly 25 years ago, TCA's founders realized the importance of thoroughbred aftercare. So for almost the last quarter of a century, TCA has worked to assist organizations that rehabilitate, retrain, retire, and adopt out thoroughbreds because aftercare is so important. So there are really, in my opinion, 3 reasons why it is of primary importance. Firstly, it's our responsibility as owners of these horses to provide for them when their days on the track are over. We are their owners, we are their protectors, their stewards, their guardians, and therefore we are responsible for them. Secondly, and this is maybe from a more philosophical perspective, it's the right thing to do. Thirdly, aftercare is important because it's good for racing, and it's important for racing. So overall, I mean, aftercare is important because everyone wins. Owners win, the racing industry wins, but most importantly, the horse wins.
All right, so as an owner then, Stacy, I'll let you take this one. How do we know it's the right time to retire our horse? And if any of the other panelists want to take it after you, we can have them comment as well.
Yeah, Mike, there's a lot of variables that, make you think, okay, it's time. They could have a case of the slows. We had people talk about that yesterday. I mean, that happens. Or they have a breathing problem that just doesn't work even after having a throat surgery. But sometimes it's, they've done enough. Some horses have had a great career. They've made a lot of money. There's no sense dropping them in. And an owner says, they've been good to me. I'm going to be good to them. And sometimes it's an injury that cannot be recovered. I mean, a lot of these injuries are recovering, and it's great, and a lot of things are going in a positive way for injuries. But really, if a horse has an injury that isn't life-ending, but is just career-ending, and it doesn't make them the athlete that they were, then now that's another time that we would want to see a horse and its owners and its veterinarians and its trainer make a decision to say, hey, let's call Aaron, let's call Stacy, let's find a place and a good home for this horse.
All right, so we know that not all horses are perfect angels, and some can be a little bit more high-strung than others. So, Aaron, I'm going to ask you, if you have a horse that has those traits of being a bit high-strung, are they a good candidate for a show horse or a pleasure horse in their post-racing career?
Absolutely. Thoroughbreds are some of the most versatile animals out there. Regarding the high-strung comment, it's important to remember that when a thoroughbred's in training at the track, they're kept in a stall for the majority of the day. So their energy is, all pent up in that stall, and then they expend that energy when they're out on the track. But if there's probably a marked difference between a thoroughbred's energy level there at the track versus one that's turned out for 8 hours a day, like a standard pleasure horse may be. But in terms of thoroughbreds and their versatility after the track, here's a great example of a horse named Courageous Comet. He raced primarily at Finger Lakes Racetrack. In 36 starts, earned almost $72,000. Well, here's Courageous Comet in his life after the track. He was a member of the 2008 United States Olympic team. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal right there. He had great success in the eventing world. He and his rider there, Becky Holder. But thoroughbreds, again, so versatile. I've personally seen them used as hunters, jumpers, barrel racers, police horses, polo ponies, ranch horses. I mean, the list, it really goes on and on and on. And additionally, more and more they're being used in therapeutic riding situations. This next slide I've got for you, this is a horse called 3 Lions. He made 9 starts. He's now being used at a organization that Thoroughbred Charities of America grants to called Saratoga Warhorse, and they provide assistance to men and women suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. So equine-assisted therapy has become really an incredible way for many different treatments of many different problems, and it's, a big part of it is the thoroughbred.
Yeah, so many great things being done for the care of the equine athlete. Let's turn our attention to talking about some of the great things that are being done to care for the men and women that work with these horses every day. And the Jockey Club Safety Net Foundation, headed up by Nancy Kelly. And Nancy, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the foundation and what you do?
Sure. The Jockey Club Safety Net Foundation is the only one of its kind in our industry. We provide financial assistance to a broad range of individuals throughout the United States and Canada. And as you can see from the pie, the bulk of our recipients consist of jockeys and exercise riders due to the nature of their job. What other occupation do you know of where an ambulance follows you around while you're working? Backstretch workers, grooms, hot walkers, exercise riders, their families, night watchmen, and other consists of front office personnel, security guards, farm workers, to name a few. The philosophy of the foundation is to give away 5% of the corpus each year. And in 2014, we are going to give out $500,000 to needy individuals. That assistance can be for medical bills if somebody doesn't have insurance, and a lot of our workers do not, even jockeys. That assistance can be for funeral bills. If somebody on the backstretch dies, we usually combine the bill with the local horsemen's organization or the racetrack itself. We provide monthly assistance to pay for general living expenses if somebody's sick or injured in an accident. We have one fundraising event a year, and that's in Saratoga. It's very well attended by ladies in the thoroughbred industry, as well as the local Saratoga organizations. And we leave a percentage of that money in Saratoga since the ladies are so generous to support that. This year, we gave a percentage to Shelters of Saratoga, and they provide housing for the local community.
It's great. It's outstanding. It really is. I mean, just watching you go through that presentation, I was thinking about the different ways that you can gain support for the program and how owners might be able to help out. You mentioned the one fundraiser, but there has to be ways that people can help you in supporting these endeavors.
The bulk of our funding comes from the generosity of our Jockey Club members and other organizations and individuals in our industry. Anybody can contribute online, send a straight donation to us. We do a lot of work with the racetrack chaplains. They know everything that's going on in the backstretch. So we work very closely with them. We fund a lot of food drives, clothing drives throughout the racetracks. Because we're located in New York, we do a lot of work with the chaplain at Aqueduct Belmont in Saratoga. We help give out turkeys at Thanksgiving. We provide gifts, toys for the kids and the backstretch workers at Christmas. And we help with various programs that the chaplaincy runs throughout the year, not just in New York, but all throughout the United States. I'm meeting with the chaplain here at Keeneland, hopefully later on this afternoon. Bobby Aldridge, he's a great guy.
I'd like to mention, too, that Nancy pointed out that the philosophy of the Safety Net Foundation is to expend 5% of your corpus or net worth. That may sound a little conservative, but the Grayson Foundation follows the same rule, and there are statistics in the foundation and philanthropy world that show that even if you up that to 7% a year over a period of a couple of decades, you will wind up giving less to your core mission than if you keep it at 5%. So
right.
The 5% has some pragmatic elements behind it. It's not just a choice brought out of thin air.
And we want to keep giving throughout many years in the future, long after I'm gone.
Well, Ed, I'm glad you segue into the Grayson Research Foundation as well. Tell me a little bit more about the foundation and talk about some of the ways that the foundation is getting sources to those people that need it most.
Well, the method of the Grayson Jockey Club Foundation is to invite and accept specific projects. We don't give blank or block grants to universities. We get specific projects from university personnel. And we have a research advisory committee, which Dr. Bramlage was the founding chairman and Dr. Blea has been on. We get them together. It's a great amalgam of researchers and racetrack and farm vets, and they evaluate these projects from the standpoint of their own specialties. And we are very, very confident that once we've gone through that process, that the committee recommends to the board of directors the best projects that are available that year. Now, the research, equine research world is pretty attuned to the needs of the industry, so we don't often have to say to them, okay, we're going to set aside money for this project or for this subject. We have done that, and we can do that. We did it in the case of the shockwave therapy, which defined safe use of that tool. But for the most part, the research advisor, the equine research community is really attuned to the needs of not just the racehorse world, but the overall horse world.
Well, there's obviously a tremendous amount of resources that go into the research projects, Ed, and share a couple of examples of thoroughbreds that have benefited from this type of research.
Well, I'll need to go, the most impressive and the one that got a lot of publicity a couple of years ago was Painter, very nice 3-year-old who won I think he won the Haskell, came down with it. It looked like he was going to suffer laminitis, which is so often fatal. And the young lady who worked on him had attended a seminar in which Dr. Belknap, who has been funded by the foundation as well as the NTRA Foundation, he had developed, had enough progress with cryotherapy, which is use of coldness on the hooves, that this lady was encouraged to use that on Painter, and Painter went from a horse that we expected each morning to learn that he had been euthanized. He went to a horse who came back to the races and is now standing at stud. So that's a kind of a poster child. Looking at it from the standpoint from the research first, over the years, the Grayson Foundation has been partially or largely responsible for such things as the development of vaccination against virus abortion. Now, you've probably all heard about the small crops and shortage of fields. Just think of that phrase, virus abortion, what that could do in any given year until the vaccine was developed. So that's one of the real keys from the distant past. Also, when equine viral arteritis broke out among stallions, thoroughbred stallions in the 1980s, there was already a vaccine that the foundation had helped create in the 50s when that disease broke out among standardbreds.
Mike,
Yeah, go right ahead.
I think this is the greatest untold welfare story ever. And people, we don't blow our own horn enough. When Jeff becomes the commissioner of racing in the United States, when we have a commission office, we got to spend some time and effort telling this story. There is nobody else that spends as much money on an individual species researching their health as the horse industry spends on researching their horses' health. We're a great nursery for horses for second careers, the racing industry. They're not fast enough to compete. We deal with trainers every day and owners, and almost every one of them, if their horse can't be competitive, they give it away to another use. And so all of these people are benefiting. And you know, the famous quote about the outside of a horse being good for the inside of a man has been attributed to so many different people that I looked it up on Wikipedia to see who did it. And Winston Churchill apparently said it first.
Sure.
And that last picture of the person standing there holding the horse's head, that's just the way horses are. People love horses. They don't know why. Some of them don't even know which end of a horse eats. They've never touched a horse, but they love horses. And the so-called welfare organizations love to use that. They try to paint every controversial picture that they possibly can because it helps their fundraising. People like horses. They'll give to a horse cause, even if they have no idea about horses. So, you know, we're taking care of 50-some thousand horses in training every day in the highest possible way that we can take care of them. Jeff's there every day trying to advise the trainers. Most of the time in the nutrition question, his biggest job is to unfeed the horse, not feed the horse, because they all keep one. There's a good friend of mine, he's a veterinarian for a stable in England, and this was a few years ago, and I don't need to digress too much, but the horses were all getting liver disease, and they couldn't find out why their liver enzymes were up so high, and so they ran all kinds of exotic tests, and finally they ran vitamin levels. Their vitamin D was off the wall. The trainer wasn't winning as many stakes, so he was putting in a couple of extra squirts of vitamin mix into the feed. The assistant trainer knew his job was on, so he was putting extra squirts in. And the grooms were doing the same thing. Their vitamin D level, the livers were working overtime trying to get rid of the vitamin D. They care so much about the horses that we don't tell people how much we do, so that most of these horses are cared for better than as well as our families.
Dr. Bramlage makes a great point, because I think if you look at the horse racing industry versus any other sport or equine sport, we are more conscientious about our aftercare. We're more conscientious about our veterinary research. We're more conscientious about our racing ethics. We are really making a difference in the thoroughbred industry, and that's why I like being a part of this, because we're never satisfied with the way it was. We always want to move forward. We want to develop our research. We want to develop our aftercare. We want to make sure that our programs that are backstretched and our people that look after the horses are all taken care of. And that's what's really wonderful about the racehorse industry, for sure.
All right, go right ahead.
One thing you'll come to recognize if you do get into the game, which I hope you do, and I hope you'll be very circumspect about how you support various charities. There are a lot of them. I hope that as you become an owner, you begin to feel that you are thoroughly invested emotionally in this whole network called the racing industry. And I think all these efforts are so worthy, and I think you'll find among the efforts, the equine research community is remarkable in its ability to keep pace with, and once in a while be ahead of the human research community with far more money. And it's the network of equine research. I don't know exactly how many schools there are that do research, but we have funded 40 projects at 41 universities in the last 3 decades, most of that in North America. And we spent over $20 million to do 300 projects. But the thing about the equine research community, it's big enough to do what I've just said, and yet it's small enough that the experts, the researchers, know what others in their specialties are doing. And that helps with collaborative research. The project about cryotherapy for laminitis that helped Painter was a collaboration between researchers at Ohio State, the Ohio State University, sorry Larry, and University of Melbourne in Australia. And that's just an example of how the equine research community functions. I think you'll find that that community is less striven by disagreements and keeping your territory than other aspects of the thoroughbred world.
Well, this has been unbelievably informative. Doc, did you have one more comment?
Well, I'd like to make one comment, but
Yeah.
Ed always gets asked this question, and having been on the Research Advisory Committee for Grayson and being on the board now, I have sympathy for this question. Tell us a big discovery that you made. If you ask that of a physician, they got to go back to Pasteur when they discovered penicillin.
Yeah.
You don't make research discoveries in big chunks. You know, my favorite analogy is those people that laid the foundations for those big cathedrals in Europe, they never saw the spires at the top. That was a long-term project that was put together a little bit at a time, and that's how research works. You have to lay the groundwork for knowing what the disease is so that when viral abortion turns into herpes myelitis, which is the neurologic form of the disease that's been around for the last few years, and that can shut down a racetrack, a horse show event, any movement of horses because of the amount of regulation that it requires to control the epidemic. It's not as bad as Ebola, but it's sort of in that kind of context. And that's how research is made, and that's where the government gives the horse industry no money for research. They pour money into the NIH, but we do it all ourselves, and we don't say that often enough.
And a lot of times there are steps that, while it's not the invention of Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur was on a Grayson Foundation grant, by the way. You may not know that. You may not know that. If we had been sharper, we could have made a lot of money on that. But anyway, there was a project recently that the paper isn't even out yet that the researcher had an idea that a certain procedure would be good against protecting foals from pneumonia. And if you get into horse racing, you're probably going to get into breeding, so you'll learn about rhodococcus, which creates foal pneumonia. The idea he had was to use a substance instead of what's being used now. His substance didn't turn out to be better, but it turned out to be as good. Now that will be very important because the rhodococcus is gradually going to become resistant to the present treatment. So when that happens, we've got another treatment sitting in the corner there ready to go. That's an unusual insight into how science occasionally works, but it's an example of how something that doesn't get you a headline does move the process forward. And I would also like to say one of the efforts of the foundation that we believe in thoroughly is what we started calling it continuing education, but trainers kind of took offense at that, so we're calling it advanced horsemanship. And and we're developing a program that we will be able to provide free curricula to trainers through any organization. Now, this is a little off our subject, but I would like you to consider, when you think back of what you were told yesterday about the relationship between the trainer and the owner, I would recommend that you kind of subtly find out if that trainer is curious, if his veterinarian is curious, and if they're going to be amenable to new things that come along. Larry's organization, Dr. Blair's organization, the AAEP, that stands for American Association of Equine Practitioners. There are thousands of them, and the proceedings book at their annual convention is a mine of information, and I think it would behoove you to have a sense that your trainer and your veterinarian keeps up with new stuff. The veterinarian, through the peer-reviewed papers, that any project we fund, we require that it result in a peer-reviewed paper. So that's just one more element of the relationship of the trainer and the owner.
All right, we've covered an awful lot of ground here over the past 45 minutes or so, but we do have about 5 minutes left, so let's go out to the audience. We'll get your questions here for all of our panelists. Ma'am, go right ahead.
My name is Deborah Rush. I'm a small breeder in Pennsylvania that has been in the business for about 15 years. My question, and one of the major reasons I'm here today for this particular group, is that we've listened to the top people in this business, just like you guys are, the top in what you do. But there are not a lot, there are some unsavory people in the business, and some unsavory owners who just run and run and run your horses, which especially you three know about. I had a horse that sold very poorly, but he went on to make a lot of money for people, and then he started dropping down and claiming races. And like many breeders, I get, notifications on my iPad as to where the horses are racing and what kind of races they're in. When they get into $5,000 claiming races, I start getting worried, and I'll call the tracks. They're surprised sometimes that I call, and I say I need to get a hold of this trainer. They don't usually have like email published or anything, so there's no way directly to get to them. And this one horse, I called my trainer and said, please, can you tell somebody at Penn that I need to find this, that I'll do anything for this horse. He's going into a place an area that doesn't look good, and I don't want him to disappear. And I asked people over and over again to get hold of this particular trainer. The horse disappeared. And when finally somebody said, well, he died during colic surgery. Well, he was running for $5,000 and colic surgery is $3,000. So I don't think he died during colic surgery. So my question really is, and because none of you are directly the Jockey Club per se, I've asked many times if there are ways of breeders to be able to contact or have some way of putting a letter out or something that you're looking for these horses, or you want to contact the owners so that you're willing to ship them back from Texas to your farm and try to, if they're old, or injured, they go somewhere or whatever. But I've been told confidentiality is an issue, that they don't want to, release owners' names. You can try to contact the trainer at whatever small track this horse is running in or stuff. But basically, I've hit a wall, and I know there are a number of people, especially Niall Brennan's wife, tries to track all the 2-year-olds that go through her thing, and that's been, there have been articles published on that. But really, I think it's very serious for especially breeders and maybe past owners who lose the horse one way or the other, to try to contact these people, because there are people, we're willing to try to get them back, and try to find them another place. And you guys, sometimes they won't put them in the free stall at the racetrack and walk away.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah, Aaron and I can both help you with that question. We like to say it's an owner's responsibility and it's an industry responsibility looking after our racehorses. It's a long process, especially if you sell a horse that was X amount high and then it goes through the claiming ranks and it goes to a process. One thing that we tell people, if you have the papers, you can have, some farms will put a sticker on that says this horse is not intended for this situation or X situation. If you find yourself with this horse, please contact us, right? That will help you right off the hop, because the papers will go with the horse. The network is getting stronger, and I think that's a benefit to everyone in the industry. We aren't there yet, like a lot of things, but we are way better than we used to be. And that is really important to keep in mind, just as Mr. Bramlage said, Dr. Bramlage said about, it's a process. We are not there yet, but we've set a really good foundation with organizations like Grayson and TCA and the TAA. This is something that is never happened before. We've never had an industry standard where we are really pushing to make sure everyone that touches the horse, that has a contribution of and has benefit from horses in the industry, is going to have to put something back in so that we can have a network that will take care of most of. There's always going to be problems, and we're not going to get to them all, but it's going to take care of most of our horses.
There's a part of the Jockey Club website called Thoroughbred Connect that you might get on, and that might help you some.
Yeah, Thoroughbred Connect is a great resource. You can essentially go in and attach your name to a particular racehorse, and of course the owners at the current time that own the horse would have to go in and look and see if there's anyone attached to, any names attached to that horse. So that's a possible resource for you. It's free service.
There's a lot of resources out there, and as was stated, it's a process, but I think it starts on the front line. And there's a comment made earlier about continuing education, and we all go through continuing education, but there's a big push right now for continuing education in the industry, for trainers, for owners, for jockeys. As veterinarians, we go through it annually. I think if you put that continuing education front and center and get that done, this will help you solve your problem moving forward. Because if you educate those trainers as to what happens and what's going on, and you educate those owners, I think it all comes together with the resources and the network that's already in place.
Sir, I know you did have a question here. We're out of time. I'd invite you to come up, talk with our panelists afterwards, and go ahead and have them answer your question at that time. Thank you very much. Folks, thanks. I hope you enjoyed this panel. We're going to wrap this up now. A very special thanks to all of our panelists. I'm going to encourage you to stay in your seats. A video presentation coming up here in just a moment. I'll tell you about it in a second. But first, a hand for all of our panelists here today. All right, we're going to need just a couple of minutes, about 2 minutes, to reset the stage for our next panel. But this video is one that you won't want to miss. Trust me. It won an Eclipse Award. It was written by my colleague on the Horse Racing Radio Network, Jude Feld, when he worked here. It was produced by Keeneland's G.D. Hieronymus. And trust me, it's outstanding. If it was easy, everyone would do it.
In A League of Their Own, Tom Hanks, in his role as baseball manager Jimmy Dugan, tells a member of the Rockford Peaches, if it was easy, everyone would do it. Thoroughbred horse trainers appreciate this bit of philosophy more than anyone else. The pleasures of winning are immense, because losing is the rule, not the exception. If it was easy, everyone would do it. Up with the chickens despite a restless night thinking about that colicky colt. The grabbed quarter on the stable star, the horsing filly entered for Sunday, yesterday's bad ride. It must have been a trainer who coined the word nightmares. If it was easy, everyone would do it. Walking out with the first set on a beautiful spring morning, it's easy to find a religion. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Sometimes it's easy to rejoice. The barn runs smoothly, the coffee smells great and tastes even better. The track is perfect, exercise riders have clocks in their heads, horses work like champions. You go to the draw and your maiden filly gets in the easy half of the split. Miracle of miracles, none of the jock agents spin you. On those days, you think Hall of Fame trainer Richard Mandela is right. I hope nobody ever exposes us and makes us get a real job, he says. The rains come early, making the track a sea of slop. To work or not to work, that's the question. You need to go 5/8 for Saturday's race. It was supposed to be nice. The weatherman is a lousy handicapper. If it was easy, everyone would do it. Saturday is beautiful. All azure sky and bluegrass. The big horse is great. He's been training like a bomb. Cautious optimism to the press corps. They'd better have their running shoes on today. He's fit as a fiddle. Wouldn't blow out a match. At noon, the pressure starts in earnest. The owners and their entourage are all smiles as you sit down at the table. The waitress asks if you would like something to drink. How about a bottle of Maker's Mark, you think? Diet Coke, you say. 1,000 questions. How is he today? Did you talk to the jockey? What instructions are you going to give him? If he doesn't run well, will we still go to the Derby? You have entered the Twilight Zone. If it was easy, everyone would do it. Back at the barn, the suit jacket comes off. The necktie no longer feels like a noose. The smell of straw and hay and horses makes breathing easier. All the comforts of home. There he stands, your ticket to immortality. 1,000 pounds of muscle and might, staring out of the corner stall with the look of eagles. The walk to the paddock is exhilarating. He's prancing and dancing like Muhammad Ali. As you tighten the girth, he's looking around, sizing up his competitors. You know, the horse knows. Today is the day. Heart pounding, head splitting. You stand in the walking ring smiling like it's your wedding day. It's an Academy Award winning performance. You know the jock knows what to do, so why confuse him with the facts? Don't screw it up, you are thinking. Bring him home safe, you say. The sigh comes after the leg up. It's all over but the shouting. Well-wishers abound on the way to the box. Yellers and winkers, pats on the back, and 2 thumbs up. Good luck. I've got him on top. You look like a cinch. If it was easy, everyone would do it. He breaks a tad slow, but the jock doesn't panic. He's in a box around the turn, but he's saving ground. If the 3 would just fold, he could get out at the half. All right, jock, now's your chance. Get outside and turn him loose. I'll take it from there. The crowd roars, the big horse rolls. Now the smile is not an act. The press corps flocks like pigeons to a park bench. He's a magnificent horse, the best I've ever trained. The jock rode a great race. He's cool under pressure. That's why I use him. We'll think about the Breeders' Cup. We'll see how he comes out. I'll talk to the owners later this week. Right now, we're going to savor this victory. Champagne toasts in the director's room. Dinner at Dudley's. To bed at 10. 9 more tomorrow. Up at 4. Barn by 5. 7 to breeze. 3 to enter. If it was easy, everyone would do it.
Everyone would do it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to keep things moving along here. And our next moderator is absolutely no stranger to horse racing. She's the daughter of a Chicago-based trainer. She began hot walking her father's horses on the backside throughout high school. Well, she was also showing in dressage. A graduate of Augustana College, she began her broadcasting and marketing career at Arlington International Racecourse. Her passion for horse racing is evident behind the camera, where she promotes and markets the sport of racing to a new generation, while in front of the camera, she brings horse racing to life. Her enthusiasm, her energy, and her knowledge of what young viewers and race fans are interested to see and interested to learn. She is the marketing manager and on-air personality and analyst at Arlington, and also reports for the Jockey Club Tour on Fox Sports 1, HRTV, WGN Superstation, and hosts Arlington Live on ESPN 1000 Radio. Please give a warm welcome to Alyssa Ali.
Thanks.
There you go, kid.
Thanks, Mike. Well, thank you guys so much. I'm so excited to be here at the inaugural owner conference. And as Mike was alluding to, I'm a young person in the industry, and I'm incredibly passionate in my job in marketing at Arlington, and of course in front of the camera to kind of show thoroughbred racing to a younger generation, because we need that younger generation to step up and be the next generation to be able to step up and be owners and just be thoroughbred leaders. So this next panel I'm so excited to be part of and moderate the panel, and the young men and women that I'm about to introduce are going to be the next generation of owners and leaders in the thoroughbred industry. So with no further ado, I'd like to start introducing our panel. She is first and foremost a marketing and client coordinator at Fasig-Tipton, where for the past 6 years she's involved in the recruiting of horses and buyers and traveling to Australia, England, and France to promote the prestigious auction company. Before joining Fasig-Tipton and after graduating from the University of Notre Dame, she worked on the racetrack for leading horse trainer Todd Pletcher. She grew up working on her family's Brookdale farm in Versailles, Kentucky, and from all of these different experiences, it was a natural transition that she would want to own racehorses herself. In an effort to attract new owners to the sport, she and her husband put together racing partnerships based on having fun and educating new people wanting to come into the sport. Please join me in welcoming Anna Seitz.
Our next panel member, a 2007 graduate of the University of Wisconsin with degrees in economics and real estate. He began his professional career in our industry as a racing and business manager for Ahmed Zayat's Zayat Stables. Under his guidance as racing manager, the stable won 19 stakes races, including Grade 1 wins by AZ Warrior, Escandarea, Jaycedo, and Rightly So, and Nero, who was runner-up to Animal Kingdom in the Kentucky Derby. 4 years later, he accepted the position of Chief Operating Officer at Team Valor International, the successful racing syndication operation founded by Barry Irwin, where his responsibilities included client recruitment and racing and financial management of the 165-horse stable. Team Valor managed over 300 racing investors during this time and counted Animal Kingdom's win in the $10 million Dubai World Cup, its greatest triumph on the track. This past June, he was voted onto the prestigious Breeders' Cup board. At 28, he's the youngest member to ever get elected in the board's 30-year history. He currently serves as a USA racing advisor to Sheikh Johan Al Thani of Qatar's Al Shakab Racing. Please welcome Brad Weisberg. That's a nice headshot, by the way. Thank you. Very nice. All right, our next panel member, she has had a lifetime of involvement in thoroughbred breeding and racing. In fact, her family's stakes winners through the years have included, among others, Personal Ensign, Easy Goer, Heavenly Prize, My Flag, Storm Flag Flying, Smuggler, Seeking the Gold, and most recently, Point of Entry and 2013 Kentucky Derby winner, Orb. She also serves as a member on the board of the directors of the Grayson Jockey Club Research Foundation, the Thoroughbred Owners and Breeders Association, and the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame, and became a member of the Jockey Club in 2009. Prior to her current position as part owner and racing manager of the Phipps stable, she served in a variety of television production capacities with CBS Sports, the Golf Channel, and NTRA Breeders' Cup. Help me to welcome to the stage Daisy Phipps-Culito. All right, our next panel member, he grew up working for his family's Millridge farm here in central Kentucky under the tutelage of men and women who have been an integral part of the Millridge operation for generations. Founded by his grandmother, Alice Chandler, in 1962 on land her father, Hal Price Headley, left her upon his death, Millridge has always been home to this panelist. Following college, he moved to Charlotte, North Carolina to work in commercial real estate and development, then on to Nashville, Tennessee, where he became involved in that city's blossoming downtown community revitalization. Always promoting and passionate about thoroughbreds and central Kentucky, he jumped at the opportunity to return to Lexington and work with his father, Headley, at Nakoma Bloodstock, the consulting arm of Millridge Farm. With conviction for the sport and believing the great opportunity to develop the sports fan base, he is actively involved with the Kentucky Thoroughbred Association, along with many other industry initiatives. Please welcome Price Bell. Hey, Price.
Good morning.
All right, our next panel member is the fourth generation to operate his family's Claiborne Farm, which was established in 1910. He attended the University of Florida, where he majored in animal sciences with a minor in agricultural sales and marketing. During summer vacations from school, he would work with Claiborne's yearling sales prep team as well as the Keeneland sales inspection team. Upon graduation in May of 2012, he went to work for trainers at Saratoga and here at Keeneland. For the 2013 breeding season, he was the resident vet tech at Claiborne, and once the breeding season ended, he spent time shadowing his father, Seth, as well as Claiborne's farm manager, Bradley Purcell, taking a large role in sales consignment as well as day-to-day farm operations. In early 2014, he became the president of Claiborne Farm. Please join me in welcoming Walker Hancock. We have everyone now. Hey, Walker.
Hey.
Welcome. All right, now I feel comfy.
Me
Sit
too.
down. Right. These are nice. Very. All right, so let's just start out. We just introduced you guys, got a really nice background on everyone. Everyone kind of came into horse racing by a different path. So I kind of want to know, how much encouragement did you all get to kind of come into the industry, or were you encouraged to maybe try something else before you came into the industry? So Price, let's start with you.
Great. Well, thank you all for being here today. It's a great honor to be up here. When I was very young, I think in middle school, I really wanted to work on the farm with my cousin Gatewood. He had a farm across the street, and I guess we were 12 years old, and Dad said very specifically, it's a privilege to work every day, and I've always taken that and really enjoyed that. And so it was always fun to go, be dropped off in the morning, work with everybody, and then, at the end of the day, be tired, and at the end of the week, earn a nice paycheck. And from there, it just blossomed. I was always encouraged to really pursue whatever I wanted, but it was those early days, having the privilege to work with my grandmother and grandfather, father, and the team at Millridge that really instilled in me a love of wanting to come back. But it was never pushed that way.
Did you ever picture yourself doing something else, though, or did you just always kind of know?
It always felt right.
Okay.
It always felt right. Even when I was doing, and I had a career in commercial real estate, I was always, Blood Horse was the first thing I was checking, reading the TDN every morning, so I could never get too far away.
Right.
And I was always trying to make my way closer to home. So, yeah.
What about you?
My dad always told me I could do whatever I wanted. Okay. He never really pushed me. I thought I grew up wanting to be a professional baseball player, but that dream kind of ended in high school. But no, he always reaffirmed the thought that this is a hard job, there's a lot of stress involved. You don't have to do this, but it's something I always wanted to do, and it's just in my blood, and that's why I decided to return to the farm after college.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's in all of our blood. But Brad, tell us about your path, and did you always picture yourself being in the role you are today?
No, definitely not. My family's been in the horse business my entire life. My dad being an owner and also the publisher of the Thoroughbred Daily News, which some of you may be familiar with, which is like the Wall Street Journal for the horse business. It's a daily publication that tells everybody what's going on in owning and breeding. But I actually graduated college in 2007 from the Granger School of Business for Real Estate and didn't want to go into the horse business. Not that I didn't love it, but I didn't think I could make a good enough career out of it. And I went to intern for Goldman Sachs. And as everybody knows, 2008, the market started to crash. And the guys at Goldman said, "Do you really want to do this? This is a terrible culture." So I said, "No, I'm really not interested in the banking world." And I kind of gravitated back towards horse racing. And I've had a lucky run for the last 6 or 7 years, and now got into the partnership / advising and advisory role for Sheikh Al-Thani, and kind of got some lucky breaks along the way. So I didn't start out necessarily wanting to go into the horse business. I'm thrilled I did because I get to work in my passion.
Yeah, we're thrilled too. Daisy, tell us about your path.
I think my family always knew I'd be involved in it. I don't think they thought it was going to be my job. When I got out of college, I went to work for CBS Sports for 4 or 5 years, and then went to work for the Golf Channel for 12 years. And I realized when I'd start cutting to commercial, when we'd had horses going the gate, that it was probably time to switch over to horse racing. And my parents always surrounded us with really good people that we worked with, and I was always able to go spend weeks at Claiborne and with Lane's End and learn different things. And I knew when I was going to commercials that it was probably time to switch careers.
And that's when you knew. But what about you, Anna?
When I was younger, I was the youngest of 5 children, and my parents made us all work on the farm when we were little. So it was a lot of work. It was hard work, and I remember when I got to high school thinking, that's too much work. All we do is chores and muck stalls all the time. So I kind of got away from it. And then when I got into college, I started to realize how amazing the horse business was and how much I wanted to be in it. And my dad always said, it's a hard life. It's definitely, it can be a challenge. You should look at other things. And I think the more he said that, the more I was like, I can do this. I can do this. I really want to be in this industry. And I remember the day I decided I was a junior in college, and I remember exactly where I was sitting, and I said, this is it. I'm going to be in the horse business, and I'm really glad I chose that, and it's been a lot of fun. Definitely challenging and a lot of hard work, but it's very rewarding as well, and it's just such a unique industry where you can meet so many different people from all walks of life, so that's kind of what draws a lot of it to me to that.
Absolutely. Similar to, I knew I didn't want to be a trainer or anybody that woke up that early, so
exactly.
That when my dad was trains horses, I didn't want to be in that part of the industry, so I totally understand that. So, speaking, of my dad, my dad, taught me everything I know. He's the one that got me involved in racing. It seems very similar with all of you guys, just about being second and third legacies, really, in your family with racing. Now, do you think your parents and grandparents considered the sport to be a family tradition that was passed on from one generation to the next? And is your plan to leave that legacy maybe to your kids, your grandkids? Anna, why don't we start with you?
I don't think my dad originally thought that when he started Brookdale Farm, and he built it from the ground up. But it turns out 3 out of 5 of us children are in the horse business full time, and my 2 sisters own horses in my partnerships, and they own mares and stuff. So it's kind of turned into that, I suppose, and now there are 12 grandchildren. Well, one's on the way, almost 12 grandchildren. I think them being around horses, I would love it if it passed on to the next generation. They seem to be into it. They seem to be working the sales on the farm. So it would be very cool to continue to hand it on and continue to keep Brookdale going.
Daisy, what about you?
I think the way that my grandfather set it up, and my great-grandmother set it up, I think they did, because of our bloodlines, because we breed to race, we don't really buy at auction. I think they did set it up for us to pass it on from generation to generation. And our experiences at the track when we were young, they made it very positive, very fun. I try to do that with my children now also. So yeah, I think they did.
It's going to continue on. What about you, Brad?
Well, first off, I don't have the pedigree that a lot of people on stage here today have. I mean, you're talking about some historic farms in Claiborne, the Hancock family or the Phipps family or Anna's family. So I have a good sire, but everything else is very, very weak. And I'd also like to say that thank God my wife is not here, because I'm not even thinking about what my kids are going to be doing, because I don't have any kids. And I'm not ready to rush to have any kids right this second. So, but as far as continuing on a legacy, I don't think it means as much to my family, meaning being in the horse business, as much as enjoying life. And I think what horse racing has allowed me, my dad, and my brother to is enjoy life. You know, we wake up every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we have something in common that we love to go to horse races, be involved in ownership. And for me, that's the most important thing. I want my kids to find out what they love to do, like I love to do.
Absolutely. What about you, Craig?
Yeah, no, I think Brad said it very well. I mean, I think the benefit and the love of the horse, first and foremost, and then the joy of racing or a day at the farm or anything like that is really what is at all of our foundations. So if it's something that we can develop with our children, great. If they find their passion in something else, more power to them. You know, it's all about finding what they would really want to do. It's certainly, I'm very honored by the family who has carved a road in front of us, but at the same time, you know, each generation has had to be additive because you can't rest on that that's passed down.
Did you feel any pressure, though, coming from, you know, this legacy and the family to really continue it on?
Not really. It's always felt really just like an honor. Like I still really recall that it's a privilege to go to work every day, and I really believe that. And so
we're lucky in an industry that it's so easy to love, you know, being part of it, right? What about you, Walker?
Well, being the fourth generation, I guess there's maybe a little bit of pressure, but like I said, my dad let me develop my passion independently, and you know, he never pushed me one way or the other. But just growing up around the farm and going to see the horses with him and going to the races and feeling the excitement and everything like that, it was really hard to get away from. And like I said, it's just in my blood, and I loved it, you know, ever since I was little. And you know, if I can pass that passion on to my children, that's great. But if not, you know, hopefully I can have the same attitude that he has, and they'll find whatever they like to have the most passion in. And so hopefully it's horse racing, but that doesn't necessarily have to be.
And that's something too. I think, you know, we're so lucky. All of us kind of just we're allowed to just, you know, born into it kind of thing. So we appreciate what the industry has to offer at all times. So I think when we're talking about the next generation, we had it easy, really, right? I mean, we didn't have to not know what horse racing was and come into it as a new person. So I think it's neat that we then are, you know, are talking to the next owners, the next generation of owners and the thoroughbred leaders, but really the fans too. I mean, right? I mean, how do you think that we're going to be able to help get new fans in? We had it easy by growing into it. What are your ideas then to get these new fans in? And then hopefully there'll be new owners as well.
Well, I think first and foremost, horse racing is obviously about the horse. And it's just such a great creature to be around, and you just feel a presence when you're around them and the excitement and everything. I think as long as we continue to promote the horse the right way, make the right decisions, and think that, put the horse first. You know, I like to think horse racing is too big to fail, so hopefully that's true, and we can continue making the correct strides into the future to improve horse racing.
And I think to that same point, you know, I think we all remember our parents growing up around horses, so there's a comfort around being around these gentle giants. And so, you know, it made it a lot easier to stick your hand through a fence and have a horse pet you because you see your father doing it, your grandmother doing it, your sister, what have you doing it. I think that, to me, that's the most important piece going forward in fan development is let a horse breathe on you, is what my grandmother always said. If you let a horse breathe on you, you'll fall in love. And I think that if we can better connect ways for people to have that kind of access, much to the way that the racetrack presidents were speaking yesterday, getting fans access to the animal and celebrating it as the foundation and on-ramp into the sport is very important.
Do you guys feel the same way?
I lost track of the question.
Well, what really just, how we're going to get the new generation, the next generation, that's our panel, kind of getting involved. We had it easy. We were born around it. How do we get those people that perhaps didn't grow up, like you said, feeding a horse, touching a horse, involved?
Well, I think horse racing as a whole has done a terrible job over the last 35 years in innovating like NASCAR or fantasy football has done. We had it real easy. We were born into the sport, so we naturally have been watching races since young kids or being around horses. Thank God we have places like the Owner View Conference to put on that have all of you guys here today, which give you the chance to listen to a great expert panel of speakers. Not us, we're not experts. We might be great, but we're not experts. But the other people have been. So you get to see how great a lives we live and how great our sport is. The Breeders' Cup is another example, which is going to happen in 2 weeks' time in California, which would be as good of a sporting event that is put on around the world. And hopefully a lot of you either attend this year or in the future years. Next year is going to actually be here at Keeneland. So that's something to attend, and it's like the Super Bowl for horse racing. You come, it's a week full of events, and not only do you don't have to have a horse in the race to enjoy the event. Just like in the Super Bowl, you might not be supporting one of the teams, but you can go and enjoy the week. So I encourage everybody to go check out an event like that if you're really interested in horse racing.
What about you, Dave?
Brad made me lose track of the question.
Yeah, right. Well, let's move on to something.
I think that there's a lot of ways now that people, it's easier for them to get interested in horse racing. There wasn't as many partnerships when I was growing up as there is now. There's some very young, fun partnerships that people can get involved in. They can touch horses, they can be around the horses, they can learn about the horses. And they're affordable and they're with good groups. Anna's got one now too.
And one thing I really want to emphasize is, yes, we all were lucky we were born into it, but that's, I think, a major misconception of the horse industry is that you have to be a legacy and that you have to be from a family that has horses, but that's not the case. And that's why I start my racing partnerships, is because I want to squash that, because I have 2 syndicates right now. One is a women's syndicate with 40 women, and I guarantee probably 35 of them weren't in the horse business before. They weren't born into it, and we have the best time. And I always say the greatest way that I can help the industry is by making horse racing easy to understand, easy to be around, easy to enjoy, and first and foremost, have a lot of fun, because it can be hard when your horses aren't good or they don't run well in the afternoons, but the camaraderie of owning horses and being at the races or going to the barn in the morning and watching them train is what it's really all about. And I really hope that you guys all truly believe that you can get into this, even if your families aren't into it. And that's why we're trying to get into all these new things to make it just accessible and easy and understanding.
That's a very good point. Now you're talking about, having fun. I think one of the most fun you can have as being an owner is obviously going to the winner's circle after your horse just won. So if you had to single out, the most memorable moment that you shared with maybe your family or yourselves here in horse racing, what would it be, and why does it rank as one of your favorite memories? Walker, we'll start with you.
Well, one of my first memories I can ever really remember is a horse called Pulpit that was a homebred of ours, and that raced here at Keeneland in the Toyota Bluegrass Stakes. And it's one of the first times I remember, like, the build-up leading up to the race. Everyone was really nervous. My dad was a wreck that day. My grandmother was there. My aunt was there. We were all there. We had, if he wins this race, he's likely to be the favorite for the Derby. And he had previously just won the Florida Derby. And we'd come here to Keeneland. And as you see here, it was a very exciting time. And it was really just the first time I remember just feeling the excitement and actually being able to understand it. At the time, I was only 8 years old, right there next to James Sellers. But
you were cuter then than you are today.
Yeah, that's all right. But it was just a great day all around, and it was just a very exciting time for my family.
Yeah, it definitely seems so. Daisy, why don't we go to you? What was your most memorable moment?
Well, I think it's easy for me to say the Kentucky Derby from 2013. I think they're showing a different race there, but that's Easy Goer. Looks like an aqueduct, so probably the Gotham. But for me, it would probably the most memorable would be the 2013 Kentucky Derby, and it's not because it was the Kentucky Derby. My family, racing is one of those things that we can all do together. We've all had separate jobs. We've all lived in different parts of the country. Having a good horse sort of brings us all back, and it's a way for us to reconnect. Sugar, our trainer, has been training for us for 26, 28 years. His kids grew up with us. And Stuart Janney, our cousin, was also partners on Orb, and his family we all got to Louisville. We all sort of reconnected. It was a really nice ride, and it was sort of maybe the perfect storm for all of us when he won the Kentucky Derby, because we could all be there. We could all celebrate together, and it's something that, because we have a big family, it's something we can't always do together, and so that was very rewarding for us.
And you can talk us through this race, if you don't mind, with Easy Goer, and just what your I mean, it's fun watching the race as a fan, but when you're so invested in a horse, kind of walk us through what your thoughts are.
I was like 13 during this race.
Okay. Fast half mile there, 44 and change. So you had a good
He
pace
broke
to
the
run
track
into.
record in this race, and he's gonna win by like 14 or 15 lengths. Easy Goer was a cool horse. I was 13 or 14 at the time. My grandfather was still alive then, and he was deaf, but he was older. He was a really cool horse for my grandfather. He really loved this horse. He was Easy Goer and Personal Ensign were probably two of those horses that really solidified horse racing for my brothers and sisters and I, to make us fall in love with it and make sure that we continued it on with our families.
Thank you, Marshall. You can see how many lengths did he win?
I don't know what it was. It was a lot.
That was a lot. So you were 13 and you just remember that race. And
Oh,
that was
yeah.
probably your most favorite memory then, especially with all your family
Easy
still.
Goer, Personal Ensign in my youth were the two horses that really made me love it, want to go to the barn, want to be around horses, want to learn more.
Right. It's fun to pinpoint what horse kind of made
Yeah.
you continue on. Price, we'll talk about your favorite memory.
Sure. So I often say this business is about high fives, and so at the top of the stretch, and when this horse is Mamba, who wins the Bluegrass Stakes here at Keeneland, and when the top of the stretch, Dad and I, and you get this feeling where you're like, wow, he really might have a shot, and we happen to be watching it together. And to kind of give some backstory, so my grandmother inherited 250 acres and 4 brood mares when she started Mill Ridge Farm, and one of those mares was named Pillow Talk. And so the first foal of Pillow Talk she named Ave Veleque. So I think names are interesting. So Ave Veleque in Latin means hello and goodbye. And then the next daughter of Ave Veleque she named Ciao, which in Italian is hello and goodbye. And then she bred Ciao, who was her favorite mare, to Easy Goer, and produced Hamba, which in Zulu, my grandfather's South African, means walk away or easy going or something like that. And so Hamba was a great mare for us. We brought a dear partner in to her, and this is Mamba here in second. And he's traveling so easy that you kind of think, well, and he wasn't favorite in the race, and I don't remember exactly who was, but you kind of felt like he kind of had maybe an outside chance, and it just was owned by Starlight Racing as well, which is great fun. And here he's just traveling so easy, and you're thinking, you know, he really might actually pull this off. And you're looking behind to see if you see traffic coming, and right about here, Dad and I are at the very end of the clubhouse, and we're like, you know what? If he changes leads here, he might just get this done.
Jack, do you remember this? Jack, the owner of the horse, is back there somewhere.
Up front, Cowboy
And you're
Cal,
just grinding it out,
Mamba
and
short
you're like,
lead,
all right.
Mamba for Edgar Prado taking the Toyota Bluegrass
So there was
by
just
a
this
half
very
length
big
over
high
Cowboy
five
Cal.
right at the end
Then
with Dad and I. We were
Kentucky
just so excited. I remember the high five, maybe because it stung a little bit more than the hug, but you know, you're just that excited, and it's just, there's so much emotion behind it all. It's just really fun being that many generations breeding back and all those things.
It's fun to see how these horses really come to life and make your life so exciting. Let's go to Brad then, you know, tell us about your favorite horse, your favorite memory.
My favorite memory in horse is not who they're going to show here. It's probably Animal Kingdom winning the Dubai World Cup 10 million. But here is Summer Soiree. This was my first week on the job for Team Valor, which is a great partnership and a great way to get in the game. But I gave the jockey instruction my first week. I said, open up nicely, but don't go too fast. Meanwhile, he opened up insane fractions. And she almost gets caught here. She ends up winning by about a half a length on the wire. But this was a great one race, and we made a very expensive private purchase off of a graded stakes win at Turfway Park. And winning a grade 1 kind of made everything, the partner's money and everything make sense. And then she comes back to Keeneland and sold for $1.8 million after this race. So it was great for the partners to realize the success. And Everybody says it's a sport, and it is. You shouldn't get involved for the money. If you're thinking about making money, I would not get involved in the sport. That being said, there's examples like this and examples like creating stallions that allow the partners to be very, very profitable. So this was a great example and a great memory.
Yeah, and you talked about Animal Kingdom as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
Animal Kingdom won the Kentucky Derby, and then kind of everybody wrote him off as a one-hit wonder after he got hurt in the Belmont Stakes. And he came back and ran a very, very good second off of an injury to Wise Dan. Would be the top horse probably in the last 3 or 4 years in the industry. And then he had another injury, comes back and wins the Dubai World Cup. So he was very, very, very profitable for the partnership. It was a $10 million race, the Dubai World Cup, and he was sold for a reported $10+ million on top of that. And he was purchased for only about $120,000 here at Keeneland. So as I said, you can have some of those profitable experiences, which obviously keeps everybody happy and probably in the game a longer time.
Absolutely. Anna, let's talk about your favorite memory on the track with your family, and what horse in particular?
With my family, it would have to be, we raised and sold 2 clients of our families that are very good friends. Bodemeister and I'll have another. So that year, the Derby and the Preakness, when they went 1-2, that day at the Kentucky Derby was absolutely incredible, because we were all there together and we were all cheering, and everyone was drinking mint juleps, and the sun was out, and it was just one of those moments. We all looked at each other, and my brothers had tears in their eyes, and we were just like, did that really just happen? And to be such good friends with the breeders and to have been around the horses. So I think for our family, that was a very, very special moment, and just that they grew up in the fields right where we all live and everything. So it's one of those like, wow, this is a really great sport.
Check this out. Pay attention.
I wasn't ready for this. Is different. Yeah,
is this you watching I'm Already Sexy?
Yes, this is for one of my partnerships. We have this little filly called I'm Already Sexy. And,
I need to hear this. Okay.
No, I had no idea. I always get excited, and that's the first horse we ever bought for my partnership, and we spent $20,000 on her in Fasig-Tipton, and she's turned out to be this great racehorse, but that made me a little emotional. I don't know, it was just she's been so fantastic for our group, and I had to work the sale, so I couldn't go, and our bloodstock agent, Bob Feld, was standing behind me, and when he saw that the race was setting up, he started filming, I guess, and I went crazy, apparently, and that video went everywhere, and I didn't know y'all were going to show that. That was a little embarrassing.
We didn't mean to embarrass you.
No, it's fine. That's right there is a perfect example of why you should be in the sport. I don't think you really have to say anything else, because where else can you get that kind of excitement and that kind of thrill where you just you just act like a crazy person and it's okay.
And it's welcome. It's encouraged, right?
Exactly.
How do you act when you win?
We're giving you great examples here of grade 1s and grade 2s and grade 3s, but really winning any race brings out that excitement.
Any race.
I don't know if you've owned, many of you have owned horses yet, but you can win a $10,000 claimer and you can get that excited, and you should get that excited. It's one of your own running. So we're showing examples that most people in this industry don't ever get to live. And you really, look, you can strive to win grade 1s, but they're so, so, so difficult. So if I were you and I was in your shoes, I'd just go to strive to win that first race, and that will get the bug going. So we're giving you tough things to live up to, derbies and Dubai World Cups and graded stakes.
Yeah, right. Just having a horse is awesome. Yeah. It's fun.
Just being around a horse that you own is awesome.
Doing it with your friends or your family and getting to come together, like you said, on the weekend it's incredible.
That was a perfect example. I was there at Arlington when she won.
I remember.
You should have called me.
I know.
I would have acted just like that, so then we both could have.
She has a lot of followers, and she's become, pretty cool.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk then. We're talking about the thoroughbred industry and how we're going to get new owners and the young generation in. But how do you think? Well, what's in store for the thoroughbred industry in the upcoming future, and how do you think you personally can kind of help, or what are your goals and thoughts to help the thoroughbred industry make it better, as we go in every moment?
Well, I guess for me, it's I think that this conference itself is a great example of industry leaders working together. I mean, to have 4 competitive tracks working together in many ways to bring us all together with the Jockey Club support and with TOBA's support to host this type of an event I don't know of another time that's happened, at least in my lifetime. So I feel like the wins are behind us in our sales because we're working together. I mean, we can hear complaints that there's no czar of racing, but I think what we all recognize is that we're trying to drive people, drive people to experience the sport. And I think that as whatever we can do to help support the initiatives that are in front of us, I think that we are all committed to doing because it is such a passion game, and we have such great leadership now working together to do so. I think is really special. It's a special time to be in the business.
Absolutely. Walker, what are your thoughts?
Kind of like what Brad said earlier, horse racing's kind of been stuck in the dark ages for like the past 35, 40 years or whatever, and not really keeping up with the contemporary times. And, having something like this conference is a great idea. We need to find ways that we can reach out to more owners, make them feel more part of the sport and welcome, and, and improve technology and always, be looking for ways to just improve the industry overall, whether it's experience at the racetrack or here at the sales or anything like that. We just need to make sure we're keeping up with the times and always be looking forward into the future.
Brad, I mean, you did talk about, how we can improve. Do you want to elaborate on that, or are there any other ideas that you think we can bring?
I don't know if there's so much more ideas, but I think sometimes it takes some bad results to try to trigger some type of catalyst to go in the right direction. We've had some bad things in the press in the last few years, and I think racetracks are taking amongst themselves, and board industries are taking amongst themselves to clean it up. And racetrack experience, I want to hone back to that. That's the most important thing in our industry, is that when the owners or the fans go to the racetrack, to the place that these horses race, that they enjoy the experience. And Keeneland's a great example of a place that does a great job of taking care of the owners. And just like I said, I hope all of you can come to the Breeders' Cup in a few weeks or next year. You all should come to Keeneland or to Naira or to Gulfstream or Frank Stronach's place, which is one of the best owners we have. I think Mike Rogers is on one of the panels. But Stronach does an amazing job to look after both the fans and the owners. So if the racetracks continue to go in the right direction, putting money into their facilities and allowing the owners to have a great time, I think that the industry will go in the right direction. I don't really want to get into the medication, stuff like that, because at the end of the day, the owner experience is probably the most important thing that we have to worry about.
Absolutely. Daisy, how do you feel?
I agree with these guys. I think the owner experience has gotten better, and it's improving a lot. I know Del Mar and Keeneland and the Stronach Group and Naira have all been working together to see what they can do to improve the owner experience between tracks, which is very helpful and nice. So if you're a regular at Keeneland, you're going up to Naira, you're not really there very much, you don't know where to go, you can ask the person from Keeneland to contact Naira, and they will make sure you have an enjoyable experience. And that goes at at other tracks too. I think there's a lot of really hard people working in the industry right now that are trying to improve it, whether it's the uniform medication, owner experience, all of that. And so I feel like we are headed in the right direction.
Anna?
I think just to kind of emphasize on that is to take the intimidating factor out of it. I've had a lot of the partners tell me, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I live in Lexington, Kentucky, and I never knew how to own a horse. And I think that's our fault right there. I think that we can make it, it is kind of a complicated, scary thing at the beginning, maybe, but once you have someone you can go to ask questions, or who could teach you, or could give you a leg of a horse or a piece of a mare, or just something to get you involved, then I think all of a sudden your numbers start to grow, and then they bring in their 10 friends. And if you just, like I said before, really emphasize it's fun, it's enjoyable, it's educational, and it can be less intimidating once you're actually involved in it, and you surround yourself with good people. So I think if we can make it, simplify it.
And with the younger generation, like you said, that may not understand how to get involved, or as you said earlier, think that it's just, for rich people, or for exactly people that are already in it. For the younger generation, people that just recently graduated college, I think partnerships are huge, right?
Exactly. That's why I started, because I couldn't afford to own horses by myself. So I'm like, I got a great idea. I'll copy everybody else and syndicate it out and get a bunch of people, and it just took off. And now I have probably one person a week call me and ask me, can you teach me how to do what you're doing, because I want to get my friends in. And I say, sure, here's what I do. It's really, I keep it simple, and here's my notes. I'm happy to share, and it seems to be working, and they seem to be having fun and getting in. And claiming horses is always a great way to start. You could just claim a filly or colt or whatever, and just have instant action like that. And that's a good way to kind of get into it without having to go to the sale and try to buy a horse at auction. So there's a lot of different ways to get involved. Low cost at the beginning.
The partnership model is also very, very key, because it's a numbers game. I want everybody to understand, you don't just go buy one horse and it's successful. And generally, it takes a team. You know, I would always say, if you're going to put $20,000 into the game, put $7,000 in 3 different horses. So it's key, the partnership model that allows you to buy smaller percentages, 5 or 10% of a horse, or I think Anna says she has 40 partners, so it's closer to 2.5% of a horse. That allows you to have more action, because action is what's going to help you enjoy the sport.
All right, so I think we covered a lot of elements for Generation Next, so now I'd like to open it up to the audience to ask a few questions to our amazing panel. So this gentleman here.
First of all, I think this is a great idea. I was looking forward to this. I learned a lot from the veterinarians. I don't know much, but you guys, I was really curious to see what you'd think. So that was great. Anna, don't ever stop jumping for joy. That is so wonderful. My name's Greg on Wisconsin.
Go Badgers.
I'm gonna direct this to you two. I think so many of us are so close to this, and we're excited for the Breeders' Cup, and it's coming up, and we know the time. How many people at Wisconsin, when you were there, how many people at the Golf Channel are aware of horse racing? Are we confused by this? Are we shocked that, oh, everybody's aware, or it's, what's going on outside of the industry at the average college campus on the Golf Channel where you're seeing people away from the industry?
The answer is very, very few, and I don't think we need to fool ourselves. And we have 7 minutes, so I'll try to answer this question in only 30 seconds. But an idea that I had for the industry was to highlight one of our big Saturday afternoon races at halftime of a college football game. If you look at college football or some of the most successful sports, everybody's tuning in to watch them. They bet on it, a great young demographic. We haven't done enough to reach the people that are not interested in horses. You guys are great. You signed up, you paid money, you come to a conference, and you've shown interest. But the answer is very, very few people in Wisconsin or in Notre Dame or in the college towns are aware that horse racing exists. And my friends think I'm a jockey. I'm 5'6". They think I ride horses. So they don't even understand that I manage horses and put together partnerships with my own horses. So very few. We don't do a good enough job to get those people involved.
But I think that what is exciting is that people who have brought to the races before from high school, college, who have no background in it, they can't get enough. I mean, we started out with a small party of 10 people 10 years ago, and now we have 150 people come every year because they want to bring their friends. So our sticky factor is very, very positive. It's just a matter of getting over the information asymmetry and getting people off into their out of their comfort zone and coming and experiencing racing. So
How do you think we do that? You know, we're talking from Wisconsin, and with different states, I think Kentucky, we'd be surprised, I think, about how many people maybe don't understand, but it's a little bit easier in Kentucky when you have the home of the Kentucky Derby at Churchill. You know, Chicago or Wisconsin, you know, people, they're not around horse racing. So how are they going to get even interested? I mean, how do we do that? I know once we get them here.
Well, America's Best Racing Tour started a bus tour around the country, and they go to all the big events, and they go to college towns, and that was a start. And I think that's very important. Ideas like that try to take, look, you have Lexington, you have those people, you have UK, they're coming. They do a great job to attract them. But we don't do a good enough job in places that don't have horse racing, and that people are going to eventually move away from those places and hopefully go to the bigger cities that do have horse racing. So we just need to continue to innovate. The great idea, the bus tour, and continue to try to attract the people out of our normal circle.
Well, and Fox Sports has been doing those shows, and I think that's picking up momentum. And there's been a lot of producers who've contacted all of us about trying to do a reality show just for those exact reasons. So I think people are trying and things are happening, and it's just, you're right, we do need to continue to grow and make it more mainstream, but it's difficult to break into. People are stubborn. They just only know what they know. But I know there are a lot of major networks and people trying to do that.
Yeah, and I think just even getting to the tracks themselves, I think the tracks are just doing an amazing job of having, and it's creating an entertainment destination.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to go for the band and the $2 drafts. Okay,
But
now
maybe
I
I'll
just
make a
won
bet.
my $2 bet, and
Yeah.
okay, now I'm interested. So I think, a lot of the industry is doing a really good job in that sense. There's more to be done. Sir?
I'm Andy Evans. I'm from Seattle, and we do race out there. And I can see that some of you are into viral video, but how do you feel about social media as a tool for owners to gather more interest in their horses?
I think social media is a phenomenal tool that we now have available to us. I laughed. We are working on a project with the bourbon industry, and Woodford Reserve is a bourbon distillery around the corner. And they were talking about their social media initiatives, and they said that the #1 tweet that got the most followers on Facebook, retweets, et cetera, was someone was running late for a meeting, and some yearlings had gotten out on Steel Road. And so they had to stop and wait for the yearlings to move, and they took a picture of it, and they said traffic jam in horse country. And it was the imagery of the animal that was so prominent and reverberated throughout the rest of their social media channels. So I think it's a great opportunity, because I think that the animal is what's so captivating, and people love it and have that connection.
I think it's the future. It's definitely becoming. A lot of people have Twitter accounts for their horses. Some of my partners just set up Twitter accounts, and they pretend they're the horse. But it's also a good way to get information. So the second, horses are entered in races. So for me, for my job and just for enjoying horse racing, like, it's amazing what you can get off of social media to keep you up to date. So I do think if we continue to utilize it, it's going to be a big part of our future.
Twitter for us now that's
it's
where
the
we
news.
get our most timely information
Exactly.
in horse racing.
Yeah, I think it's a huge driving force. Like being all the way out in Seattle, you can read a tweet and feel like you're connected to Saratoga or Belmont, whatever, just like that. And I think we, moving forward, need to take advantage of that kind of opportunity.
I think we can't underestimate the use of the celebrity as well in social media. I mean, the celebrity is probably the most attracting thing to Twitter or Facebook, and we have some great celebrities in our sport, whether it's Bobby Flay, a famous chef, or other people like that. And first of all, I want everybody to follow me at Brad Weisbord Twitter. But some of my Twitter feed is taking pictures with celebrity. Arnold Palmer comes to Keeneland, and people can relate to that. I mean, all that helps drive eyeballs to the sport, hopefully create more owners and fans.
Absolutely. Do we have any other questions from the audience?
Mr. Player has a question.
Another celebrity.
It's so infectious to see young people like yourselves with such enthusiasm and what you're going to be doing for the game, because obviously you'll be better educated than we were. But if you listen yesterday and to Mayor Jones, to Governor Jones, he started when he was 5, his first touch of a horse. You listen to Tom Durkin when he was young, myself when I was 9 and my mother died. So the youth of a nation are the trustees of posterity. Why are the home of the thoroughbred racing? We're not getting people to go to the track, which is so exciting. Yes, you can have all the great facilities at the track, but you've got to get young people there. Every stud farm in this country should be inviting 2 young boys from a school to spend a weekend at their farm. Look at all these stud farms you have in the country. Is it asking much for twice a year for a stud farm to invite 2 young boys or 2 young girls to come to the farm? You've got them hooked for life.
It's funny you say that. On Monday, I was recounting this earlier. On Monday, we had the privilege of having some kids from Southland Christian after-school program who are at-risk kids here locally, and there were 25 kids who came out, and they had a one-to-one, tutor. And the week before, they'd been at the UK basketball practice, so our bar was set pretty high because John Calipari is much more charismatic than I am, and these basketball players are much more relatable than I am. And on the way out there, they were saying, they were accounting to the tutors, they said, "Why are we going to a farm? What's this all about?" And then they got out there, and we rolled the windows down, and we got them out, and we, fed horses over the fence, and we saw them pet noses, and they were just like, the smiles on their face when they left was so infectious. And the tutor said afterwards, it was one of the highlights of the entire after-school program was the opportunity to be in the open space and see that. So it's a matter of us as stud farms, we are doing a better job of working together to coordinate those types of experiences to, instill the love of the animal into the next generation.
I copied something from Wayne Lucas. Wayne Lucas, I don't know if everybody, one of the most famous horse trainers in our game, Hall of Fame, and he brings a little kid into the winner's circle almost every time he's there. Doesn't own the horse, but knows that experience could make that little kid a fan. And I kind of took one from him and try to pull a kid or 2 every time we win a race into the winner's circle. But Mr. Player, we do not do enough of stuff like that. I think we just keep reminding everybody else in the industry that we all need to get the younger generation involved, because eventually, like yourself at 9 years old, that's what creates fans.
All right, we are out of time now for our Generation Next panel. If we can give another round of applause for these amazing, energetic young people in our racing industry. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So our volunteers are going to be circulating among you here for the next minute or two. It's very important that you have, they'll be giving you these envelopes. Very important that you have these to get access to the track after we close up the conference, and also to the Phoenix room. So make sure you have these with you as our people pass them out among you. I've got, we're going to be have two more speakers this afternoon. But before that, I have some very sad news to report to you. Last night in the 8th race at Indiana Grand, there was a tragic racing accident, and apprentice jockey Juan Saez lost his life as a result of those injuries. He was just 17 years old, and making it really come home to us today. He was scheduled to ride 3 races today at Keeneland. So if you will join me, please, in a moment of silence in memory of Juan Saez. And so thank you, and we will take a 10-minute break, and we will resume in 10 minutes with the remainder of our conference. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be resuming momentarily, so please take your seats. You can't see me, but I can see you. Please be seated. Did that sound menacing enough? All right, thank you, everyone. Hope you didn't mind my imitation of Frank Morgan as the Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. We're kind of winding things up here. We're going to have a presentation and then some formal closing marks from Denny Phipps. Right now, I want to introduce the president of the Thoroughbred Owners and Breeders Association, better known by the acronym of TOBA. He handled the licensing and marketing for the Breeders' Cup for a number of years, where I first got to know him. He's also the president of Kaywood Ledford Productions. You Kentuckians will know him as the voice of the Wildcats. I remember him as a pretty good race caller. He used to call it Kentucky Derby. But here's a pretty good guy, Dan Metzger.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, better have a seat. And Dan, along with our next presenter, Gary Falter, are largely responsible for this very innovative conference that we've had here for the past day and a half. Right now, I want to introduce the very innovative Vice President of Operations of OwnerView for the Jockey Club, Gary Falter. He's going to tell you that if you're digitally inclined, you're going to enjoy his presentation called, Yes, This Game Comes with Instructions.
All right, thank you, Tom, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Wow, what a conference we've had for the last day and a half. You know, we've had some great panels, great speakers, some just marvelous presentations. And this is the final panel for the conference. When we're through, Mr. Phipps, our chairman, will give the closing remarks. But Dan and I are going to spend the next 40 minutes going over some important information resources that are available to all you thoroughbred owners. Many owners have told us that when they started off as a new owner, it was like a board game. that had no instructions. Many owners had to learn by using the dreaded method of trial by error and school of hard knocks. Some just simply gave up because it was too frustrating and costly to learn by these techniques. But I'm here to tell you that those days are over. And when we're done, I believe that you'll have the answer to this question in the next 40 minutes, and confident that you'll answer this in a positive way. Now, on your iPads, and you don't have to follow this because Dan and I are going to go through this rather quick, there are a number of icons that we preloaded on your iPads that you received. And so we're going to discuss many of these topics, and in your conference magazine, we also cover these very same topics. And we're going to start off talking about Equibase. Equibase is the industry website nearly everybody is familiar with. You can get entries, results, past performances, workouts on nearly any thoroughbred. Equibase is the official statistical database for the thoroughbred industry. And although we don't have time to cover every aspect of Equibase, I would like to cover a couple important features of Equibase that thoroughbred owners would find very useful. And we're going to start off with Equibase Stat Central. This is the Equibase home screen that you can see up on the screen behind me. And in the upper right-hand corner, there's a block where you can enter the name of any registered thoroughbred at least 2 years old that's had at least one workout. And I'm going to show you, we're going to look at Tonalist, the Belmont winner. And when you enter Tonalist into this field, it brings back a screen that has a profile about Tonalist. And what I'd like to show you on this page is at the bottom of the screen where it has the results link. If you click on the results link, it brings back a screen that shows the lifetime starts or charts for Tonalist. And there's drill down capabilities here where you can drill down and get more information. For example, when Tonalist won the Belmont, there's a link there for the chart. And when you click on the chart, there's a chart from Equibase that we're all familiar with. So what horses can you do this on? Any horse. And the cost is free. It's no cost to you. So any thoroughbred in training that you want to look up, their lifetime charts, you have it there available in front of you on equibase.com. Another feature I'd like to point out on Equibase is virtual stable. If you're following a horse for any reason and you want to keep track of that horse, you can add that horse to your virtual stable. And many horse owners do this on a regular basis. There's no cost to that. And if you add that horse to your virtual stable, you'll be notified of entries, results, and workouts for that horse. Great feature, also a free service from Equibase. Next, I would like to cover Equine Line. Equine Line is a service that was developed by the Jockey Club Information Systems, and there are products and services for owners, breeders, farms, agents, trainers, just about anybody involved in the thoroughbred industry. These products range from free services to one-off products to subscription services. I'd like to show you a few of the popular services on Equine Line, and we'll start off with the 5-generation pedigree. So with Equine Line, you can go to that website at any time, enter the name of a horse, and here's Tonalist, and you can view the 5-generation pedigree for this horse. The top side is the sire line, the bottom part of this is the mare line. Here with Tonalist, it shows a little bit of inbreeding, Mr. Prospector 4x5 on the top side, and looks like a little bit of Northern Dancer, so not a whole lot of inbreeding. How many horses can you do this on? Well, you can do it as many as you'd like. Any thoroughbred, any registered thoroughbred, or hypothetical mating. So maybe you want to match up your mare with a certain stallion, you can do that on this site, and the cost is free. So great popular service on Equine Line. Also, we've circled, there's a link there for complete auction results. You can also look at the auction history for any thoroughbred to see if a horse is sold at public auction. And the horse Tonalist, he was offered twice. He was RNA'd once for $195,000, and then he was also an out here at the Keeneland November sale. So if you'd like to follow a horse and how it's done on the racetrack, you've got Equibase to look up the charts. If you want to look at the 5-cross pedigree, we have that on Equine Line. And if you want to look at the auction history, it's all right here. Another great service on Equine Line is the My Portfolio service. Just like any investment you may have, whether it's stocks or mutual funds or real estate, you can also have a portfolio of your horses. And so this is a list of horses that are in this portfolio. You can have broodmares and stallions and foals and horses in training. And I've circled Wise Dan here at the bottom. And if you had a portfolio of yourself and you clicked on the horse's name, it brings back his lifetime starts, past performance race record. So with the portfolio service, it's not a free service, but it's a great service. $2.49 per month per horse to have it in your portfolio. It's about $30 a year. And in an industry with day rates that range anywhere from $80 to $100 a day, this is a value to have this kind of information available to you for less than $30 a year. So Wise Dan, I've got his lifetime starts in front of me. You can also have links to the charts and also to the video replays. You can also look at the catalog style pedigree. If you download a pedigree for the horse you have in your portfolio one time, you can review it anytime you'd like as long as you have internet access and update it for free 4 times a year. Okay, we're going to change gears now. Dan's going to come up and talk about Blood Horse and Toba, and then I'm going to wrap things up and give you a detailed presentation about owner view. So Dan?
Thank you, Gary. Good morning. Our next topic to review is the Blood Horse. As a subsidiary of the Thoroughbred Owners and Breeders Association, Blood Horse Publications exist solely for the good and for the benefit of the entire thoroughbred racing industry. The Blood Horse is the flagship publication in the industry. It is a weekly print magazine. Should I get the right button here?
There you go.
There we go. It's a weekly print magazine, and since its founding in 1916, yes, that's 100 years, and 2 more years will be celebrating their 100th birthday or anniversary, the publication has informed and educated thoroughbred horsemen, professionals, and fans about events, trends, and issues affecting the industry. Its coverage ranges from reporting profiles on industry personalities to pedigrees to farm management, from medication issues to simulcasting and economic issues, and anything in between that is newsworthy. The Ownerview Conference program that you have contains several personality profiles that were originally appeared in the pages of the Blood Horse. Bloodhorse.com, which is on the screen now, is the essential destination for thoroughbred industry leaders and followers and delivers comprehensive breaking news, in-depth analysis, race details, auction data and reports, up-to-the-minute headlines, stallion statistics, breeding news, special reports, editorial blogs, original video programming, and feature stories covering all aspects of the thoroughbred industry. Hands down, Bloodhorse.com is the one-stop online authority for everything industry professionals want to know about thoroughbred racing. The Blood Horse Stallion Register and the StallionRegister.com are the thoroughbred industry's oldest, largest, and only nationally distributed stallion reference. This substantial reference provides broodmare owners with concise statistical information on confirmation photos of commercial thoroughbred stallions standing at stud. StallionRegister.com is the only online resource providing real-time updates from the Jockey Club databases and is integrated with the mating toll product TrueNix. Whether you're looking for racing news, auction results, or making breeding decisions, the Blood Horse is a very valuable resource at your fingertips. Now, if I can speak just for a few minutes about the Thoroughbred Owners and Breeders Association, TOBA, which is a national organization made up of thoroughbred owners and breeders. TOBA was formed in 1961, but our roots go back nearly 100 years through our predecessor organizations. We're based here in Lexington. We strive to be the advocate on behalf of owners and breeders on issues facing the sport, especially in the areas of economics and integrity issues facing the owners. Our mission statement, as our Chairman Pete Wilmot mentioned it in his opening remarks earlier today, TOBA's mission is to improve the economics, the integrity, and the pleasure of the sport on behalf of thoroughbred owners and breeders. Our programs include, and I have to remember to do this button. Our programs include the American Graded Stakes. Toba founded the American Graded Stakes system 40 years ago, and it's been a mainstay in the racing and breeding industry ever since. We have a committee of 11 individuals, 6 members of Toba, which are owners and breeders, 5 racing officials, and they'll meet in early December to assign the grades for 400 odd some graded stakes races in the United States. And we also assign listed status, and that's been in recent years for all listed stakes races. We take this responsibility at Toba very seriously to both the breeding industry, because the graded stakes system was designed and developed initially, and really still is the core for the breeding and the sales industry, but we also have a serious obligation to the racing industry as well. Toba also manages the Claiming Crown. We started that in 1999, and which we'll be coming up on our 15th running this year at Gulfstream Park. It'll be on December the 6th. We'll have 8 races for $1 million in total purses. And we want to thank our friends at the Stronach Group for their support of the Claiming Crown. It's been a wonderful partnership, and we look forward to more years together at Gulfstream Park. One of the great tools that you can learn as a thoroughbred owner and great resource is the Toba New Owner Seminars and our confirmation and pedigree and breeding clinics. These are incredible opportunities to learn more about the sport for many of the industry's leading professionals. We call them professors for the week when they come in. We have classroom settings that we will be in a classroom setting so we can learn more about different pedigree theories, accounting aspects, things from the legal standpoint. But then we host these clinics, what we've always considered some of the greatest classroom settings in the world. At racetracks, we've had our new owner seminars this year in settings such as Keeneland. We've had them in Saratoga, Gulfstream Park, and Arlington Park. You get out there in the backstretch in the morning, you get around the horses, you have live demonstrations where you have experts doing live evaluations on these racehorses or these broodmares. We also have these, for those just thinking about getting into the industry, or for many people who are already in the industry, our breeding clinics and our pedigree and confirmation clinics are fantastic, and they're at many of our world-class thoroughbred farms, and we've hosted those both here in Central Kentucky and in Ocala, Florida. Our next clinic is actually this weekend. It's a pedigree and confirmation clinic where on Saturday and Sunday we'll cover the ideal confirmation of the racehorse, confirmation faults, pedigree theories, and planning your matings. Toba also co-manages ownerview.com, which Gary has been the lieutenant and the captain for it, and Gary's going to provide more details on that in just a few minutes. About 10 years ago, we put together the Sales Integrity Program, and the mission of the Sales Integrity Program is to maintain the highest levels of integrity in the horse sales for both buyers and for sellers, while ensuring a competitive, fair, and vibrant marketplace for the benefit of the entire industry. Toba also provides international representation for U.S. owners and breeders on the International Grading and Race Planning Committee, the International Catalog and Standards Committee, and the International Breeders Federation. The Thoroughbred Charities of America, TCA, is the charitable arm of Toba. As we mentioned earlier, Toba is the owner of the blood horse, and every member of Toba receives the blood horse as a member benefit. Toba is also represented as a founding member on the board of directors for both the Racing Medication and Testing Consortium. That's an issue that we take very seriously, and we put a lot of resources and money into the RMTC, and it's been one of the great success stories we believe in horse racing, as well as into the NTRA, as we're founding members of both. Toba has always been and will continue to be a resource for its members. Our members are the foundation of our organization. Without the members' support, we would not be in existence. We will also continue to be a tireless advocate on behalf of all owners and breeders throughout America. Gary's now going to discuss ownerview.com, which is a partnership between Toba and the Jockey Club. Thank you.
Okay, as Dan said, now we're going to talk about my favorite subject, ownerview.com. And why is it my favorite subject? Where I spend my time every day. I'm working on different things with Ownerview, this conference, and future conferences. So we're going to spend the next 20 minutes reviewing ownerview.com. It was built for thoroughbred owners. I'm going to go through a lot of screens, and I'm going to get through them fairly quick. If you remember one thing, just remember ownerview.com, because it was built for thoroughbred owners, and everything I'm going to show you is free on the website. We launched the website in May of 2012. Excuse me. Since then, we've had over 250,000 visits to Ownerview and 1 million page views. There's the website, the homepage. And this is some of the feedback we've received from owners about Ownerview. Sorely needed to protect the all-important investors in our business. Excellent information, always needed for horse people. What a great program that you are running for both current and new owners. And my personal favorite, I love this site. But I have to tell you, in the spirit of full disclosure, I have asked my wife and daughters to no longer send those comments in. But honestly, since we launched the website, this is the kind of feedback we've received unsolicited from you owners. So I'm going to put my notes away, and now we're going to talk about the website and what's available on this website. You can view detailed statistics on any active trainer in North America. So I have a page here for Graham Motion, detailed statistics for Graham Motion. But you know, when you look up information on a trainer, it's not just about the stats. The stats are important, and we have all that, and it's updated every night. And just to let you know, there's over 6,000 licensed trainers in North America, so that's the limit of how many trainers you can research on Ownerview. We've asked many trainers in North America to put up their profiles. This is like a mini website. Most trainers don't have websites. I'd say maybe 10%, 15% tops. But this is a page where you as an owner can find something out more about the trainer. How to contact the trainer, either an email address or a phone number, a little bit of bio information about the trainer, where this person trains. So, and we've asked the trainers, keep this updated, keep it fresh, so owners will learn and know more about you. We also have the top 10 horses in the past 12 months and since 1991 for every trainer listed on Ownerview. So here on Graham Motion page, the top, it starts with Main Sequence, Ring Weekend. At the bottom, there's Animal Kingdom, Better Talk Now. We have some drill down capabilities where you can look at the 5-generation pedigree on any of these horses or the lifetime charts that I just showed you from Equibase. We also have racing syndicates on ownerview.com. When we first launched Ownerview, we thought we knew how many racing syndicates were out there. Boy, were we ever fooled. We launched with about 20 racing syndicates listed. There's over 50 racing syndicates that are now loaded on Ownerview. Many of them have contacted us to be loaded on Ownerview, and you can go there and do your research on any of these organizations. Prior to Ownerview, I don't know where one would have turned to find out what racing syndicates were available. We had a difficult time ourselves. But with racing syndicates, the landing page has some detailed statistics. And every one of these syndicates have a profile page. They're all about marketing and promoting their services. Here's West Point Thoroughbreds with some detailed statistics that you'll find on West Point, and a profile. So how can you contact somebody with this racing syndicate, some bio information, and so on. So you'll start to see a pattern here with Ownerview. We'll have some statistics, and then we'll have a profile about the organization or the person that gives you a little bit more information about who they are. Racetracks. We have nearly every racetrack in North America on Ownerview. So if you're going to own a racehorse, obviously you're going to have interaction with racetracks. And we have these racetracks sorted by their daily purse distribution. So if you want to target racetracks that have the high-end purse distribution, we have them all listed in alphabetical order. Or if you wanted to target the mid-range tracks or the smaller tracks, we have them all listed here. Again, every racetrack has a profile. So if you want to look at Keeneland's profile, it has about us, it has links to their stakes, it has links to different personnel with Keeneland, and all these racetracks will have a profile that will take you to their website to get you even more detailed information. We also have a section on Ownerview for owner profiles. So if you wanted to register with the website, you can do that. It's not required. It's not required to use the website to be registered. But if you'd like, you can do that and put up your own profile and tell other owners something about you. This profile came in last week, and we look at every one that goes up. And this gentleman, who we do not know, placed this profile up there. And let me just read this little blowout up here on the screen. These are my first 2 horses, and I've been fortunate that they are both winners, and one is a stakes winner. This was a bucket list item. I did not want to leave this earth without experiencing the thrill of ownership. I have loved horse racing since childhood, and I would have had great regret if I didn't give it a shot. Wow. I mean, how can you add anything to that? And I'm sure that's the sentiment many of you feel about being thoroughbred owners. We also have a section on owner view for the new owner or the prospective owner, and it's just listed under ownership. We have videos from owners talking about different aspects of ownership. We have a section called The Journey, where we have different stories and videos about thoroughbred ownership that you would find interesting. A section about why it's important to have a business plan, selecting your advisors, what are the different purchase options. So this is kind of the Ownership 101 section that we would recommend any new or prospective owner spend some time on. Licensing, boy, that's a great subject. You have to be licensed to be a thoroughbred owner. All the jurisdictions, have their policies. It'd be great if there was a national owner's license, but there just isn't. And so what we did with OwnerView is we listed every state in this section, and we have links to their owner license form. So if your trainer calls you up and says, hey, we're going to be running in Louisiana next week, you need to get licensed, come to the website, click on Louisiana. We have their owner license form listed there. And we also have a link to the National Racing Compact. That's a great service where you can be licensed in multiple states, and they'll help facilitate that. It's not a national license, but it's an organization that will help you get licensed in multiple states. State incentive programs. Gosh, all these states have these incentives to race and breed in their states. And how would you know what they are? Well, I didn't know what they were. So we went to all the states and said, help us out. Tell us what your state incentive programs are. So we built this table for every state that responded. This isn't information that we interpreted. These are their words. So whether Kentucky, Florida, New York, we have all their incentive programs here from a racehorse owner or a breeder, along with a detailed profile page that tells you even more about those incentive programs. And this would be the Kentucky bred for the Kentucky Incentive Program profile. National publications. Dan talked about the Blood Horse, great publication, highly recommended for everyone. I've been reading it since 1978. But there is a variety of publications, and you can't have too much information. We have a section here on OwnerView, covers national publications, covers regional publications, books, all sorts of information, so you, the thoroughbred owner, knows what information from a publication standpoint is available to you. The role of the veterinarian, I mean, that's a mystery to a lot of new owners. So with the help of the AAEP, which is the veterinarian organization, the trade organization, we built this section to help you understand the role of the veterinarian. And this is pretty high-level stuff. They didn't give us a lot of granular things that would just be over my head. And it covers equine welfare 101, health considerations, typical racehorse injuries. You heard from Dr. Bramlage earlier today, pre-race inspection. So a lot of different topics here that the AAEP provided to us for you to peruse and to learn more about the veterinarian's role with managing your thoroughbreds. Have a retirement plan for your thoroughbred. Gosh, we've heard about that from Aftercare, from the TAA, Thoroughbred Charities of America. We highly support that and recommend that everybody, every owner, spend some time on those websites and these websites, our website, learning more about this. We have, with the help of the Thoroughbred Charities of America and the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance, every approved facility listed here, state by state. So as a thoroughbred owner and you live in Minnesota, and you're ready to retire a racehorse and you want to find out what facilities are approved in Minnesota, come to OwnerView, go to Minnesota, and there's a list of all the different facilities approved by the TCA and the TAA for Minnesota. Last year we added a section on advisors. We had a lot of people calling us saying, okay, you got a lot of information on this website, it's great, who do I talk to next? Well, TOBA, our partner with OwnerView, they had a list of advisors that are all TOBA members on a previous website, and we ported most of those men and women across to this section. They're not men and women that we say we're endorsing and say, talk to this one, not that one. It's just an alphabetical list of men and women who hold themselves out as advisors to owners, new owners, prospective owners, current owners. Recommend if you want to talk to somebody from this advisor list, they all have profiles. You can reach out to them and make use of this list. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about, on your iPads when you go home, we have a number of apps available to you. We did not preload these apps because if we had, you would never have an opportunity to update them because they would have been loaded with an ID from the Jockey Club. So when you click on this icon that's on the screen, or the previous screen, we've listed some of these recommended apps. The Equine Line Sales Catalog app, great app if you're going to be going to the sales and you want to use your iPad versus a sales catalog. Equine Line Mare Produce Record is a great app. Equibase's Today's Racing, America's Best Racing. These are all apps that you can, when you take your iPad home, you can download these, and most of them are free. And when you click on those icons, it'll take you directly to the iTunes store where you can download those apps and have them on your iPad. The Jockey Club naming app, Keeneland Race Day, Del Mar Thoroughbred Club has an app, NYRA has an app, and so does the Daily Racing Form. So this is just a screen to help you download those apps when you take your iPads home. So does this game come with instructions? There's so much information made available to you. I mean, we talked a little bit about Equine Line, Equibase, Blood Horse, Toba, Owner View. You know, we hope that you find that these products and services and these websites are helpful, they're informational. I believe by the end of this, hopefully you feel that yes, there is some instruction now in how to become a thoroughbred owner and how to stay a thoroughbred owner. And what I'd like to ask all of you, if you could, just when you go home, spend some time on these websites. In your magazine, we have the names and the phone numbers of all the resources from all the different organizations we talked about. So if you have questions about Equibase or Equine Line or Owner View, we have that in your conference magazine where you can call or email us if you have any questions. That just about wraps it up. I got 2 asks from all of you. The first ask is you have evaluation forms from the conference. Don't forget to fill those out. That will help us immensely in planning the next conference and getting your input, your feedback, your ideas about this conference. And second, should you decide to come next year, and we'll announce soon where the next conference, when and where the next conference will be held, bring somebody with you. I look at all of you, and it's just wonderful to see your faces. You're the pioneers for this first conference, and we thank you wholeheartedly for attending this first conference. So next year, bring somebody with you, a prospective owner, somebody in your circle of acquaintances, and we'll make this even bigger and better next year. Thank you. Okay. Good.
Oh. All right, gentlemen, thank you. Our final speaker for the conference is Denny Phipps. I don't believe that there is a person extant in this industry that has the superlative trifecta that he possesses of experience, expertise, and success. Experience and expertise, 31 years. The chairman of the Jockey Club. 7 years was the chairman of the New York Racing Association, and he has handled many other duties, important duties in the industry throughout his career. And success, if I began to name not just the good, but the great horses that he has bred and raced over the years, we'd probably miss the double across the street today. So no need to get into all of those great, great horses that he has campaigned. Ladies and gentlemen, a stalwart of the thoroughbred industry, Denny Phipps. All right, Denny.
Thank you, Tom.
They're all yours.
Thank you. Oh, it's not very smart to follow Tom Durkin. What a wonderful man and what he's done for racing. I want to start by conveying my sincere thanks to the four main sponsors of the conference: Del Mar, Thoroughbred Club, Keeneland, New York Racing Association, and the Stronach Group. All four of them have made a serious commitment to enhancing the owner experience at their tracks, and their financial support of this event is just another example of their devotion to this industry. We owe a special thanks to Keeneland for being such a gracious host to yet another industry conference. This is an ideal location and a superb facility. The Keeneland staff could not be more accommodating, whether we are here for one of our welfare and safety summits or the Thoroughbred Owners Conference. In a similar vein, I'd like to thank all of you for attending this conference. You too have displayed a keen interest in our sport, as well as a desire to either share your knowledge or learn more about it. And you've made a commitment of time and money to be here for these past few days. I hope the conference has met and exceeded your expectations. The Jockey Club was created in 1894 to bring a sense of order to our sport in North America. As the slogan says, the Jockey Club is dedicated to the improvement of thoroughbred racing and breeding. That dedication comes in many forms and in many diverse areas: marketing, safety, integrity, and welfare, to name a few. On the marketing front, and with the guidance of McKinsey & Company, we have embraced a number of fan development activities in recent years. America's Best Racing is the centerpiece of those efforts. Quite clearly and by design, the Jockey Club has become more than just a breed registry. Over the course of the past 25 years, we've created commercial subsidiaries that provide vital services to our industry and generate profits to fund important initiatives. We also operate two charitable foundations, one vital for vital equine research, and the other provides financial assistance to needy individuals in our sport. In a nutshell, we're trying to grow the sport. In the case of Ownerview and various other projects, we have joined with Toba to do this. As chairman of the Jockey Club, I take pride in all of our activities, and I can tell you that our Board of Stewards shares my enthusiasm, particularly with our efforts to retain current owners and recruit new ones. Thoroughbred racing has been blessed in recent years to see a new generation of high-profile owners enjoying our sport at the highest levels. I'm talking about Bobby Flay, Kevin Plank, Mike Rapoli, Jim Rome, among others. Personally, I represent the third generation in my family to breed and race horses. I still derive immense enjoyment from the sport. I love to see our horses train well, and I love to see them run to their potential. Do I have words of wisdom for fellow owners after all these years of breeding and racing horses? Really, just a few. As an owner, you are paying the bills. You have rights. Use them. Communicate clearly and often with your trainer. Make decisions together. Ask questions. Use modern tools to stay informed. There are all sorts of online services available to follow and manage your equine interests. You don't need to be a systems programmer, as I certainly am not, to use them. The late Hall of Fame trainer Charlie Whittingham often joked about trainers withholding information from owners. He said, you treat owners like mushrooms. You keep them in the dark and cover them with fertilizer. That line was always good for a laugh, but Charlie didn't win 2,500 races in a 50-year career without properly communicating with his owners. Those of you who have enjoyed visits to the witness circle certainly treasure those memories. Those who are new to the sport or considering thoroughbred owners will experience a unique thrill, a thrill that is hard to describe when you see a jockey wearing your silks barreling down the stretch and crossing the wire first. That happened to me, that first happened to me 53 years ago. I hope you get as much pleasure out of racing as I have and as I still do. Finally, it is my sincere hope that this conference has been both educational and entertaining for you. Please know that we welcome your input at all times. On behalf of the Jockey Club, Ownerview, and TOBA, I thank you again for your interest and for spending the past 3 days here with us. You should start dreaming today about having a horse in next year's Breeders' Cup at Keeneland. Enjoy the remainder of your time here in Lexington, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Denny, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm ready to go to the track. I always have to have my lucky hat on, my trilby, and I do enjoy going to the track with a bag just in case I need something to carry home all the money with. So there are these important details that I must tell you before we send you on your way. In your padfolio, that's a new word I learned this week, padfolio. You will find the all-important conference evaluation. If there is a thing there that says evaluate MC, put down excellent, because I'm out of work and I need all the work I can get. When you exit the pavilion complex, you will take a right and head toward the track. Remember that you need one of these envelopes in order to get into the track and lunch. Please remember the dress code for the area you are in, and you must be wearing your lanyard, if you hadn't lost it like I have, to get into the track and the Phoenix room. Also, for those of you who have utilized the shuttle from the Marriott this morning, those shuttles will begin leaving from the south entrance gate near the clubhouse at 4 o'clock today. Once again, the shuttles will be leaving from the south entrance gate near the clubhouse at 4 p.m. today. The last shuttle leaves at 5:30. And thank you.